Chapter 260. Han Fei didn't stop for a moment except to take 2 breaths of air along the way. The closer he got to the mountain, the more he found the problem. It was too big and too high. The huge shadow was probably tens of thousands of meters high. It was because of this height that Han Fei was horrified. If a mountain that was tens of thousands of meters high didn't emerge from the water, then where were they? Underwater? Are you kidding me? Han Fei didn't think he could withstand the huge pressure of tens of thousands of meters deep. With this consideration, Han Fei immediately took out the blue sea wandering dragon bow, gathered a spiritual energy arrow, and shot it straight up. As a result, the spiritual energy arrow exploded less than 500 meters away, and a visible spiritual energy ripple spread in all directions. This scene made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. There's a seal. This is not an ordinary seal. It covers 1,000 kilometers. Who on earth has the ability to seal such a large area? Han Fei couldn't help thinking of the layout of the floating islands, villages, level 1 fisheries, and level 2 fisheries, which were beyond his imagination. If all this was deliberately done by someone, this person must be very powerful. Han Fei shook his head. This was not something he should think about. He had to go to the mountain as soon as possible. If he guessed right, the target of the more than 300 students at this moment was this mountain because it was too conspicuous. About half an hour later, Han Fei avoided many kinds of fish and shrimps, including the piercing electricity jellyfish, blue hat jellyfish, soul-attracting jellyfish in the piercing electricity zone, plate rays, spider crabs, and even sandworms in the deep-sea jungle. The closer he got to the mountain, the more careful Han Fei was. The undersea creatures he encountered were stronger and stronger. They could even be said to be sea monsters. Any one of them would be a boss-level creature in the ordinary area of the level 2 fishery. Han Fei was like a small fish, swaying in the water. Suddenly, Han Fei sensed that 3 invisible figures were floating to him. Chilla, the seawater exploded in an instant, and 3 cold lights flickered like streams of light, reaching him in the blink of an eye. Spiral strike. Han Fei frowned, rotated his body with the long rod, and chose one of the cold lights. At the same time, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers flashed out of his body and attacked the other 2. Bam! Under the huge shock wave, a mouthful of blood mist spurted in the water, and the next moment, the figure retreated quickly, trying to escape. Hey! You want to go? Don't you think it's too late? Attach. The 9-star chain shot out, but then Han Fei gave up on the opponent, because another cold light pierced at him from below. Spinning blade. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers drew curved arcs in the seawater, like a blooming umbrella, blocking the cold light in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Han Fei held the blue sea wandering dragon bow in his hand. Whoosh! A white mark was left on the seawater, and a figure was nailed out by Han Fei. Without the stealth state, the hunter was just a piece of cake to Han Fei. Han Fei swooped down, replaced the blue sea wandering dragon bow with the snow silver rod, and launched a staff technique from the sky. The young man below was very anxious. He took out a fish skin pouch from his waist. The fish sack exploded, and a large amount of black ink dyed the water black. As if they had made an agreement, the 3 hunters attacked at the same time. Han Fei could feel the power of this blow. Although they weren't Xia Shaochan never risked her life to fight him, but these people weren't. They were risking their lives. In the darkness, Han Fei grinned. I'm afraid you don't know what spiritual perception is. Han Fei's body was more flexible than a fish, and he pierced a hunter with his rod. At the same time, the 9-star chain swept out. The 9-star chain of the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was very powerful, and few people could easily resist it. In the blink of an eye, 3 figures fell out of the black ink. Han Fei floated in the water with the rod and said, "Fiery mountain tokens." However, one of them said with a pale face, "Let us go. There's dead leaf poison in the ink pouch. Let us go and we'll give you the antidote." Han Fei frowned. It was okay for hunters to use poison, but using poison in this trial showed that they didn't intend to let the hunted live. Han Fei instantly threw out the rod in his hand, which penetrated the young man's chest in the blink of an eye. The snow-silver rod stuck straight into the mud at the bottom of the sea, raising tens of meters of mud. Are you threatening me? I wanted to let you go, but you threatened me. Han Fei didn't even look at the man but looked back at the other man and woman with a smile. Antidote, fiery mountain tokens. Han Fei knew what dead leaf poison was. It was recorded in the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants that dead leaf poison came from the dead leaf starfish. This kind of starfish was shaped like dead leaves and was highly poisonous. Dead leaf grass would only be produced in their gathering places. It should be something that only existed in the level 3 fishery. If it was just the poison of the level 2 fishery, Han Fei wouldn't care at all. He had swallowed the exotic poisonous fruit and the moon-watching fruit, so the poison of the level 2 fishery was basically ineffective to him. But this was the poison of the level 3 fishery. He didn't dare to be careless. It was better to know the antidote first. The other two hunters' faces changed drastically. Han Fei was too strong. The three of them besieged him unexpectedly but failed to kill him. Instead, he killed one of them. This was terrible. At this moment, the two of them were very regretful. After recognizing Han Fei, they were too careless. They thought that the three of them were all advanced great fishing masters. When they fought together, they were equivalent to 3 peak-level great fishing masters, but they failed to kill Han Fei? How can we believe you? The other boy looked at his comrade who had been killed by Han Fei. At this moment, a chain was rummaging through his body and soon 2 fiery mountain tokens were brought back. Han Fei threw them into Forge the Universe without even looking at them and looked at the two with a smile. Awesome! It seems that you have more than 1 fiery mountain token on you. I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it, or you'll die. The girl said, we can give you the antidote and the fiery mountain tokens, but you have to promise Sea God that you won't kill us. Han Fei asked, Sea God? What the hell is that? You have no choice but to believe me. The two's faces changed drastically. This was so disrespectful. How could he be so rude to Sea God? Was Han Fei crazy? The girl still wanted to say something but was stopped by the boy. The boy shook his head and threw a small bottle to Han Fei. However, Han Fei didn't take it at all. He pointed his finger and a wave of water pushed the bottle to the boy. Take a sip first. The boy's face changed slightly. At the moment his face changed, Han Fei's face suddenly turned cold. The blue sea wandering dragon bow appeared in his hand and he shot an arrow. At the same time, dozens of blue sea wandering dragon daggers followed closely. Puff! 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 The boy resisted angrily, but the exposed hunter had no power to fight back against Han Fei. In the end, a chain pierced the boy's chest. Han Fei's face was gloomy. You want to fool me with such a little trick? Did you hit your head with an ironhead fish? Han Fei rummaged and frowned. Why is there only 1 fiery mountain token? The girl was pale with fright and quickly responded, we agreed that we would each grab 1 and go to the mountain, but he still needed 1, so. Oh. Here you go. The girl was frightened and threw the 2 fiery mountain tokens to Han Fei. Otherwise, Han Fei could also get them if he killed her. Han Fei took the fiery mountain tokens. Good girl. Antidote. The girl hurriedly took out the antidote, took a sip, and then threw it to Han Fei, saying in fear, don't kill me. Han Fei shook his head slightly. She was scared out of her wits. He really didn't know how she became an advanced great fishing master. Even He Xiaoyu was not as good as her. Han Fei drank the antidote and felt the blockage in his body just now disappeared. He waved his hand and said, I'll let you go, but you owe me a fiery mountain token. If you meet me next time, remember to give it to me. Otherwise. Hey. Just stay with them. As soon as Han Fei finished speaking, the girl slipped away with a swish, not daring to stay for a moment. Han Fei picked up the daggers of the two dead people. Both of them were low-quality magic weapons. He curled his lips slightly and threw them into Forge the Universe. Maybe he could use them one day. Maybe he could sell them for some money. Mobile phone station. Chapter 261. As soon as Han Fei pulled out the snow-silver rod, he saw a sudden burst of strong light on the huge mountain. Something seemed to have been triggered. So fast. Han Fei's face changed slightly. He had been here for less than a day and there was movement on the mountain. This meant that someone had arrived. Oh, that's my chance. Han Fei swooshed off the ground and swam towards the mountain. It was different from ordinary fisheries. If you could get the opportunity in ordinary fisheries, you could get it, and if you couldn't, you could just give it up. It all depended on your luck. But this was a trial. These fortuitous opportunities had to be snatched. Not only Han Fei, but at the moment when the strong light burst on the mountain, at least hundreds of people in all directions also moved. After more than half a day of exploration, almost everyone found that the entire water area appeared around the mountain. Now that the mountain was rioting, how could these people not be anxious? Originally, there were about 300 people scattered in the water area with a radius of 1,000 kilometers. But at this moment, the range had almost shrunk to within 200 kilometers, and almost no one was here. Han Fei avoided a lot of fish and got closer and closer to the mountain, only to see a large number of silver spots flickering like a curtain of the Milky Way. As Han Fei approached, the silver gauze seemed to move closer to Han Fei consciously. When the two sides were only a few hundred meters apart, Han Fei bared his teeth. Damn, this is too much. Why is this silver curtain a large number of exotic fish? What are they doing here? In his eyes, a new species of fish appeared. Its whole body was almost transparent, but it was shining with silver light. It was only the size of a palm but had pure white eyes. It didn't look like a good fish at all. Explosive silver fish. Spiritual energy. Silver fish, containing a lot of spiritual energy in their bodies, often appeared near spiritual energy silver mines. Because they absorbed a lot of spiritual energy, the spiritual energy in their bodies was extremely unstable and they had to reproduce to reduce the energy in their bodies. Spiritual energy. Once they encountered an enemy, they would often self-destruct. 24 rare 561 points. Quickly replenishing spiritual energy. None. A large number of silver fish seemed to rush towards Han Fei consciously, just like the phantom fish he encountered before. The reason why the phantom fish chased him was that he killed their companions. But why were these silver fish chasing him? Han Fei turned around and ran. At the same time, the mist-hidden grass appeared in his hand, and he stuffed it into his mouth and swallowed it. Han Fei didn't use it before because he wanted to go back and see if he could refine pills. Now, it seemed that there was no longer a need for that. Faced with the overwhelming number of explosive silver fish, Han Fei was almost certain that this was similar to the piercing electricity zone. The difference was that the piercing electricity jellyfish could only discharge electricity, but they could not self-destruct. However, this thing would self-destruct at the slightest provocation. If one were to force their way through, they would probably be half crippled by the explosion. A level 24 fish was equivalent to an intermediate great fishing master. Once it self-destructed, who knew how powerful it would be? As soon as the nine-tailed mantis shrimp lashed out with its chain, it immediately exploded. Jia did it dozens of times. What kind of explosive silver fish was this? Every time. Jia. Unexpectedly, a spherical water ball appeared in the water. Damn it, is it so hard to get close to that mountain? When he ran dozens of kilometers away, he found that the explosive silver fish stopped chasing him. Instantly, he relaxed a lot and sat down in the water. I've finally escaped from the devil's clutches. Not long after Han Fei relaxed, he sensed ripples in the water. In the distance, he could vaguely see a bright spot exploding. Is there anyone else who wants to pass through the school of explosive silverfish? It was only a matter of time before he finished refining the fog-hidden grass. But before that, the fiery mountain token was also extremely important to him. If I can't find the treasure, can't I grab the fiery mountain tokens? Su Tsong from the Second Academy was confident that he could break through the explosive silver fish with his strong defense ability as an armorist. But as soon as he rushed in, he was stunned. The 4 shields around him could no longer withstand the crazy self-destruction of the silver fish. He felt it for himself. Every silver fish was bathing. In fact, it was equivalent to the full-strength blow of a junior great fishing master. He didn't even last for 5 breaths of time. The 4 shields weren't broken, but the huge explosion was still going strong. Zha's shockwave caused the blood in his body to surge and he bled from his 7 orifices. Su Tsong did not dare to charge forward when he saw the dense school of silverfish. He quickly retreated. By the time he rushed out, 2 of the 4 shields had been blown up. He was dripping with blood, and his back was almost covered in silverfish scales. Su Tsong vomited a mouthful of blood. With a burst of spiritual energy, the scales on his back were shaken out of his body. But then, he was bleeding. He quickly swallowed a qi and blood healing pill. Before he sat cross-legged to treat his wounds, he suddenly raised his shield to block. Dum! 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 9 chains broke through the air, and the deafening noise was several times more terrifying than the explosion of the silver fish. Su Tsong took out his swords and knives from his armor box. But at this moment, more than a dozen cold long knives had fallen in front of him. Han Fei suddenly appeared and grinned. Fiery mountain token. When Su Tsong saw Han Fei, he almost vomited a mouthful of blood. How shameless. Han Fei was trying to fish in troubled waters. Su Tsong frowned. Han Fei, there's no grudge between us, 2 fiery mountain tokens. Su Tsong widened his eyes and said telepathically, how can I have 2 fiery mountain tokens? I didn't run into anyone on the way. Han Fei said, I don't care. It's perfectly justified for me to rob you. That one of yours is mine now. Do you think I'll let you go for free? So, you owe me a fiery mountain token. Su Tsong almost fought with Han Fei. However, he realized that he had just consumed a lot of spiritual energy. If he fought with Han Fei now, he would definitely lose. Having no choice, Su Tsong gritted his teeth and handed over the fiery mountain token. I'll get the other one. Han Fei grabbed the fiery mountain token. Don't even think about reneging on your debt. You're not the only one who owes me a fiery mountain token. I remember it clearly in my notebook. I'll go to them one by one later. Su Tsong said gloomily, I won't renege on my debt, as long as I can get it. Then, Su Tsong ran away. How did he run into Han Fei? Before he entered the secret realm, he discussed with his classmates that they would kill Han Fei if they ran into him. Little did he know that all his friends were gone after he entered the secret realm. In the same way, Han Fei circled the silver fish and looted 8 fiery mountain tokens. Of course, there were 7 more people who owed him debts. At this moment, the mist-hidden grass in Han Fei's body had been refined and began to work. Han Fei was trying to turn invisible, but he found that the mist-hidden grass was not as effective as he thought. It seemed to be invisible. But on a closer look, it seemed to retain the outline of a human body. He might not be able to distinguish fish and shrimps, but it was useless to humans. Garbage spiritual grass. Han Fei complained. Sure enough, the mist-hidden grass could only be used as bait. Its stealth ability was too weak. Han Fei was complaining when he saw 5 people swimming close together. Han Fei was in a half-stealth state. Although it was not very advanced, it could still be considered stealth. These people were too far away to see him. Han Fei immediately hid in the crevice at the bottom of the sea. This is tricky. Why are these 5 people together when everyone else is alone? When the 5 people approached, Han Fei's eyelids cramped. He saw an acquaintance, Su Yabai. Unfortunately, he didn't know any of the other 4. If it were someone else, they would have exclaimed, 5 of the top 10 experts of the 3 academies are here. Suddenly, one of the 5 looked down. Han Fei held his breath and thought, have I been discovered? Su Yebai asked, what's wrong? A cold-looking boy frowned. Someone seems to be watching us. A guy who looked as handsome as Zhang Xuanyu had the whites of his eyes. Han Fei could tell at a glance that he was indeed suspected. He turned out to be a spirit gatherer who was observing the spiritual waves around. Han Fei immediately calmed himself down. Thankfully, he had practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies, which could seal his spiritual energy. Otherwise, he might have been discovered. Han Fei secretly calmed himself down. These 5 people were very strong. Including Su Yabai, they were all peak-level great fishing masters. Also, Han Fei suspected that they were a perfect team. He knew that Su Yabai was a manipulator, and the leading boy was carrying an armor box, and the handsome spirit gatherer. Then, did it mean that the other 2 were a soul warrior and a hunter? After a long time, the spirit gatherer shook his head casually. Forget it. Maybe they're hiding. Let's go over first. Cell phone website. Chapter 262. Han Fei was rather panicked. Those 5 people were truly strong. If any of them were hunters, it would be easy for them to find him. But after a few seconds, they left, as if they didn't care about him at all. Han Fei pondered. 5 peak-level great fishing masters. If they were a perfect team, could he handle them? Although Han Fei was confident, he knew that he had to act within his capabilities. If it were Xia Shaochan, the girls, and the spirit gatherer, he could only kill 3 of them at most. But of course, Han Fei didn't think that those 5 people were as strong as the 5 of them. So, he followed them quietly. Since you don't care, I'll wait until you feel the power of the silver fish's self-destruction. But a moment later, Han Fei's eyes widened. The armorist took action first, which was different from Lu Renkuang's armor box, which was full of knives, swords, and sticks. As soon as his armor box was opened, the tortoise shells were assembled into a large ball like a puzzle, which enveloped all 5 of them. It was the first time that Han Fei had seen such a handsome armorist. It was unbelievable. Lu Renkuang had never shown such a cool armorist technique before. But it wasn't over yet. Layers of glittering ice crystals appeared on the tortoise shells. Immediately, a glittering ball of ice crystals appeared. However, it wasn't over yet. Hundreds of spider threads darted out of the ball and nailed to hundreds of rocks at the bottom of the sea. In the end, to Han Fei's astonishment, the ball disappeared into the school of silver fish in the blink of an eye like a shot from a slingshot. Bam! 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 Wherever the ball passed, all the silver fishes would self-destruct. However, Han Fei watched the ball pass all the way as if it didn't meet any obstacle. Damn! It's rather strong. Han Fei was solemn. Not surprisingly, this was the strongest team that Han Fei had ever met, including the one in the 100th game in the Blue Sea Arena. If the armorist at that time had been replaced by the armorist just now, the outcome of the battle might have been different. Han Fei frowned. He looked at the mountain before him and then at the school of silver fish. Even though he was confident in his powerful physique, it wouldn't be easy for him to force his way through. He appeared and summoned the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Before this fellow could get close to him, he kicked it in the head and said, "Dig a hole for me. Dig your way through." The 9-tailed mantis shrimp was speechless. "Every time you call me out, I'm either fighting or digging holes. Can't you call me out at other times?" The 9-tailed mantis shrimp quickly dug the soil with its 2 forelimbs. A few breaths later, a shrimp hole was drilled out. He had to admit that the mantis shrimp was really fast at digging holes. With a few thumps, he loosened the soil. After a while, Han Fei felt that he had passed half of the journey. Hey, not bad. I'll reward you with a female mantis shrimp in the future. Hearing this, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp worked even harder. Do you think it's easy for me? I haven't even seen a single prawn feather after such a long time. I hope you're not lying to me this time. Just as he was running forward, his eyelids suddenly twitched. He seemed to have dug something up. When Han Fei perceived it, his face turned green. It was a huge nest of insects. To be exact, it was the nest of sandworms. Countless enormous sandworms were entangled in the nest. More importantly, the nest was too large for his perception range of 200 meters to detect anything. Fuck. Attach. Almost in the blink of an eye, the place where Han Fei was occupied by an enormous head. Bam, in the middle of the silver fish that looked like a silver light curtain, a figure broke out of the soil. Behind him, one enormous head after another popped out of the ground. The enormous sandworms that were dozens of meters tall seemed to be swimming in the silver fish. Bam! 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 Han Fei's face turned green. Who made such a huge nest of sandworms? It was too fucking scary. After only 1 second, Han Fei's head was dizzy from the explosion. Little gold, fuse. In an instant, a pair of sharp wings grew out of Han Fei's back, and an enormous phantom appeared on his head. It looked like a bird's head but had giant gills and 9 chains on its tail. At this moment, if Han Fei were to fly in the sky, someone might mistake him for a phoenix. He had wings, a tail, and a bird's head. Hiu. At that moment, Han Fei's speed was multiple times higher than before. The feather god Rei's characteristics were fully revealed. It was extremely fast. Because the speed was too fast, the original golden red wings directly turned into 2 golden blades. Wherever it passed, it would be jaw folded. What Han Fei didn't know was that on the other side of the silver fish, 4 boys and 1 girl were standing on a rock and staring at the silver fish. Was someone really staring at us just now? The spirit gatherer nodded. Yes. I didn't see it, but I sensed different spiritual energy. The armorist said, he can't be weak if he can hide it from you. I think he has more than 1 fiery mountain token. Let's take him down first. The girl, on the other hand, took out 2 enormous hammers. She was petite and carried the hammers that were half the size of a person. The girl said, I hope he can take one of my hammers. While they were chatting, a streak of golden light dashed among the silver fish that looked like gravel in the Milky Way. Wherever it passed, it would be jaw folded. The speed was extremely fast, but it still formed a line. However, it was even quieter than when they had passed through the school of silver fish. The girl's expression was solemn. So fast. Su Yebai frowned. The phantom of a spider appeared behind him and shot out a large amount of spider silk. Dense spider web. Su Yebai made his move. Strands of spider silk intertwined and formed a large net in a few breaths' time. The young spirit gatherer raised his hands, and the seawater on both sides squeezed and condensed into a water wall. The armorist, on the other hand, gently placed the armor box at his feet. Bang! Han Fei was speechless and thought to himself, am I being stubborn? If I had known that I would have to force my way through, I would have come here much earlier. In the end, they still couldn't avoid being bombed along the way. At this moment, his head was a little swollen, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. The qi and blood in his body were in a riot, and he felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten a complete tonic. The moment he dashed out of the school of silver fish, he saw a huge net blocking his way. Fuck! In an instant, he took out the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. The tenacious spider web was pierced through as if it were made of paper. The 5 people behind him all changed their expressions, as Han Fei's reaction speed was really fast. But after the spider web, there was another water wall. Han Fei had no time to decelerate. He wanted to curse aloud, it's those 5 bastards who ambushed me here. I've been ambushing them all the time, but now I'm the one being ambushed. Since he couldn't decelerate, he wouldn't slow down. Little Gold was stubborn. How could he be scared of a water wall? Bam! At that moment, the water wall exploded like a bullet piercing through water, raising a mist. A sonic boom sounded when the water wall was hit by him. But at this moment, Han Fei saw the girl smashing at him with a hammer that was half the size of a person. Spiritual chi erupted from the hammer, bringing along layers upon layers of thick waves as it smashed down like a giant dragon. Water-stirring technique. Han Fei was not scared at all. He was not scared of anyone in terms of strength. When the illusion of the seal dozens of meters long appeared, Suyabai quickly said telepathically, "Zwa zwa, watch out. It's Han Fei." However, Suyabai's warning was too late. The hammer and the water-stirring technique collided, and a visible ripple burst out. Between the hammer and the seal, the huge impact blasted out two huge water ball shockwaves. Rumble, there was an explosion in the seawater. The girl vomited a mouthful of blood and was smashed into the ground like a cannonball. Han Fei was also flung back and smashed into the water wall by the hammer. He was shocked by the tremendous force. The young armorist's face turned cold. Is he Han Fei? Then, he patted his armor box, and a dragon swam out. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Even Lu Renquang hadn't shown the swimming dragon in the box before. That bastard must have been lazy. Why didn't he learn such a powerful combat technique? I'll beat him up when I find him later. Han Fei's whole body suddenly rose. The blue sea wandering dragon bow appeared in his hand, and he drew it to a full moon in the blink of an eye. Swish! Swish! The dragon illusion collided with the arrows of spiritual energy, and the first two arrows of the war soul art were broken. At this time, it was too late for Han Fei to shoot the third arrow. Fortunately, the dragon had disappeared, revealing the true form of the weapon, a spear. The spear was entangled by the phantom of a dragon snake. Han Fei twisted his body and replaced the blue sea wandering dragon bow in his hand with the snow silver rod. Bam! The spear was smashed back by Han Fei, and Han Fei rose again with the counterforce. At this moment, the girl who was smashed into the ground by Han Fei jumped out and crossed her hammers. Let me. But Han Fei didn't pay attention to her, but one of the five had disappeared. The next moment, he saw a red dot flash by. Han Fei's 9 tails instantly blocked in front of him, and the 9 tails clanked. The hunter didn't expect Han Fei to react so quickly. He retreated after one strike and didn't attack again. Sure enough, there's a hunter. Han Fei smiled. I'll remember this. I'll pay you back later. In the eyes of the 5 people, Han Fei turned into a golden shadow and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Cell phone website. Chapter 263. Han Fei ran wildly all the way. Although he knew that these people shouldn't be able to catch up with him, he'd better keep a distance from them. In the brief fight just now, Han Fei had a rough idea of the strength of these people. They were indeed very strong. Although the girl was knocked down by his seal just now. However, Su Yebai had taken a hit from him and was almost killed by him. However, the girl got up in the blink of an eye and jumped up and didn't seem to be injured at all. Oh! None of them seems to be weaker than Kong Yunfei. Han Fei seemed to have guessed something. He must have encountered the strongest team among the 3 academies. Because of this, Han Fei felt that it would be very interesting if they were to fight against him. Han Fei cancelled the attachment state and a fish skin map appeared in his hand. He turned and swam to the bottom of the mountain. After about an hour, Han Fei swam around half of the mountain before he found a treasure land sandwiched by 2 erect stones. But as soon as he landed, he saw 3 people rushing out of it. For a moment, both sides stopped and stared at each other. Han Fei said, "Hello. What a coincidence. You've just come out. Hand over the treasures." However, the response was, "It's Han Fei. He's also from the 4th Academy. Go." Han Fei? Han Fei was dumbfounded. This doesn't sound right. What do you mean I'm also from the 4th Academy? What's wrong with the 4th Academy? Han Fei said, hey. Let's talk nicely. Don't fight as soon as you meet. That's not good, is it? A girl said angrily, not good. The treasures we worked so hard to find were all stolen by Xia Shaochan. She stole them, you know. She stole. Han Fei was speechless. What Xia Shaochan did was really infuriating. If it were him, the treasures that he worked so hard to find were stolen in a blink of an eye, and when he opened his eyes, he found that the treasures were gone. Han Fei easily avoided the girl's attack and responded, that's not right. Since it was stolen, how do you know it was Xia Shaochan who stole it? What if it was someone else? Don't frame the 4th Academy. A young man stretched out his hand, and a large amount of spirit-entangled grass swept over. At the same time, he said, she stole it in front of us. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers swept past and cut the spirit-entangled grass into pieces. What the hell? Right in front of you, that's stealing. That was clearly robbery. You deserve to be robbed. It shows that your skills are inferior. You still have the cheek to say that? Come on, hand over your Fiery Mountain tokens. Fiery Mountain token. Let's steal the Fiery Mountain tokens. Of the three, the only armorist who hadn't spoken seemed to be bursting with fury. He patted the armor box, and all the weapons seemed to be thrown out. There were as many as 100 of them, chasing after Han Fei. Han Fei was amused. It turned out that Xia Shaochan had stolen his Fiery Mountain token too. Since that's the case, I'll let these guys go. It was already pitiful enough. What's more, they're just a bunch of paupers, what's there to fight? Could it be that there was no time cost for him to fight with them? After fighting for a while, the three of them were so tired that they almost collapsed, and Han Fei left. Han Fei flipped through the fish skin map. The place just now was relatively large on the map, but it was robbed by Xia Shaochan. In this case, there was no need for him to go in. On the map, in addition to the dangerous place at the top, there were 2 or 3 treasure places to go. Another half an hour passed. Han Fei came to an underground cave. But this time, it was full of carcasses of horseshoe insects. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Horseshoe insect nest, this is a bit disgusting. Should I go? In the end, Han Fei didn't go but waited at the entrance of the cave. Xia Shaochan wouldn't wait for others to grab the treasure before robbing them. Would she rush in stupidly? However, after waiting for an hour, the people in the cave still hadn't come out. But to his surprise, 2 girls came. Because Han Fei was hiding on the side, in the semi-invisible state of the mist-hidden grass, the 2 of them didn't notice him. At this moment, the 2 girls stood in front of the cave entrance and seemed to be talking. Xiaohe, do you want to go down? These insects are so disgusting. Go. There are opportunities down there. But, it's the insect nest down there. Well, why don't we wait outside? Anyway, the people inside will come out sooner or later. There are so many insect corpses outside. They must have been in there for a long time, right? Suddenly, one of the girls looked back. Han Fei was leaning against a stone. Hey, what a coincidence. Aren't you going down? The 2 girls were alarmed and one of them said, Han Fei? Han Fei laughed. Ha, why do I feel that you all know me? The 2 girls were speechless. Of course, there are only 5 people in the 4th Academy. Even if you didn't know each other before, who didn't know you when you snatched the door? The 2 girls seemed to have a discussion and suddenly ejected, ready to escape. They had long heard of Han Fei's strength. To be precise, the strength of everyone in the 4th Academy, including Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, had been studied countless times by others. Therefore, after weighing their own strength, the 2 girls chose to escape. However, before they escaped 10 meters away, dozens of chains suddenly broke out of the ground under their feet. In an instant, they entangled one of them and disrupted the other's escape route. Swish! 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 The blue sea wandering dragon daggers shot out and Han Fei smashed at them with the snow-silver rod in his hand. How could he show mercy to women? It depended on the occasion. It was reasonable to say that people would die in the fiery mountain trial. He had been gentle enough. So far, he had only killed 2 of them. Water escape. However, before Han Fei reached them, he saw that the girl who was entangled somehow broke free from the chains and even disappeared. Gone. With his spiritual perception, Han Fei felt that a mass of water was running and had already run 200 meters away. Han Fei, the remaining girl wouldn't turn into water. At this moment, when Han Fei smashed at her with the rod, she instantly turned invisible. Her flexible body bypassed the chains and 2 daggers were aimed at Han Fei's throat. The daggers were aimed at Han Fei's throat. Spiral strike. The snow-silver rod changed its direction and spun to stab at the girl. Bam! The girl was sent flying. You are not a hunter. How can you find me? Han Fei grinned. If no one can find me when I'm invisible, wouldn't hunters be invincible? The girl turned over and tried to escape, but the 9-tailed mantis shrimp had already drilled out of the soil. There was no way for her to escape. Han Fei asked, You have more than 1 fiery mountain token, don't you? Hand them all over. The girl glanced at the cave next to her and was hesitating whether to run in or not. However, Han Fei made a gesture of invitation. Give me your fiery mountain token and I can let you go. If you go down, will the people down there let you go? Maybe you will die down there. The girl's face changed several times. In the end, she gritted her teeth and threw 2 fiery mountain tokens over. Then she jumped and was about to leave. Han Fei didn't stop her. If he could win without a fight, why fight? With these 2, he already had 27 fiery mountain tokens. This number was quite a lot, almost 1/10 of the total. Han Fei estimated that this was only the first day and no one should have more fiery mountain tokens than him. Just as he put away the fiery mountain tokens, the cave next to him suddenly fluctuated, and Han Fei swept over with his rod. Another hunter. However, this time Han Fei didn't get what he wanted. The water suddenly surged, and a figure disappeared out of thin air, followed by a dagger. The dagger was stabbed directly into his waist. Asshole, you hit me. How dare you hit me? Han Fei. Xia Shaochan. Xia Shaochan appeared and looked at Han Fei angrily. Okay. I was robbing things down there, and you were squatting here waiting for the fish. Why didn't you go down? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. No, I didn't know you were down there. Then Han Fei patted his thigh. That's right. In that place just now, Xia Shaochan had just robbed the 3 people and ran away. It was very logical that she appeared here to rob others. Han Fei looked at the entrance of the cave. The people down there, Xia Shaochan shouted, let's go. The fiery mountain tokens of the 3 people down there are all in my hands. As for the treasures, they have all been eaten by them. I can't hand them over. Han Fei was speechless. That's really fast. Xia Shaochan, how many fiery mountain tokens do you have now? Xia Shaochan replied telepathically without looking back, 37. What about you? Han Fei. Cell phone website. Chapter 264. Han Fei was dumbfounded. His head seemed to have been hit by an ironhead fish. How many? Xia Shaochan said, 37. It's not a big deal. Don't make such a fuss. Han Fei was speechless. He was amazed by Xia Shaochan's speed. How fast did she have to be to grab 37 fiery mountain tokens in one day? This was a little too much. Han Fei reluctantly said to her via voice transmission, 27 is a bit too few. No, I think we can put off looking for opportunities for a while. Let's go looting first, shall we? Han Fei had some guesses. Xia Shaochan grabbed 37, then what about the others? For example, how many did Luo Xiaobai grab? Although this girl didn't talk much, she was the most proactive one among all the people when she had a task and a goal. How many did Lu Renquan grab? Although this fatty was a foodie, it had to be said that when it came to fighting, he was indeed fierce. As for Zhang Xuanyu, Han Fei didn't think he could grab a few. As for a head-on fighter, he would have to fight with others for a fiery mountain token. So, there was no doubt that he should have the least. Han Fei took out the map and said, Xia Shaochan, do you remember the map in the box we took from Master Turtle? Xia Shaochan exclaimed and said, is it a map of the fiery mountain? Han Fei nodded. Of course. Come on, take a look. How many places have you looted? Xia Shaochan took the map, looked at it for a while, and said, I've been to this place, and this place. In one breath, Xia Shaochan reported 8 points, which stunned Han Fei a little. Han Fei was speechless. Is there any place you haven't been to? Xia Shaochan tilted her head and looked up at the top of the mountain. I haven't been to the top yet. Han Fei said gloomily, then let's go to the top. He didn't expect to go to those ordinary secret realms anymore. What the hell was this treasure map? It was useless at all. What the hell was the point? All the marked areas had basically been ravaged within a day. That was too much. And here he was, thinking that there were plenty of opportunities waiting for him. What the hell was this? However, Han Fei didn't think that when Master Turtle was a child, it was hundreds of years ago. At that time, most of the places in the Flame Mountain were really faded. It was just that after countless explorations, it had long been emptied. The top of the mountain, or to be precise, the middle of the mountain, was only a few hundred meters high, because the higher places had been sealed. Most importantly, this place was not a secret place. Since this was a tall and majestic mountain, those who could rush into the school of silver fish would naturally not stop at the foot of the mountain. Xia Shaochan nodded. I didn't come up before because I felt that it was the most dangerous up there. However, I've seen that quite a few people have already come up. Should we go find Xiao Bai and the others first and wait together? Maybe, they are already up there. Xia Shaochan thought about it and found that it made sense. According to Luo Xiaobai's personality, she would probably go up directly, wouldn't she? However, Han Fei immediately said, we have to be careful too. On the way here, I encountered 5 of the top 10 students of the 3 academies, and they are a perfect team. They are very strong. Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei in surprise. How strong is it? 50-50. Xia Shaochan was briefly stunned. That was indeed very strong. On the mountain, because Han Fei had a map, he soon found a place with 3 protruding stones. It was unremarkable and didn't even have an entrance. However, when Han Fei and Xia Shaochan arrived, they found that the spiritual energy within 100 meters was a bit chaotic. Xia Shaochan asked, something's wrong. It's here. Where is the entrance? Han Fei said, don't panic. We can definitely go in. Besides, I have the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. It can dig holes. She wondered how traumatized the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was to have such a master. Han Fei wandered among the 3 stones for a long time, touching them here and there. Before he could do anything, a pitch-black vortex suddenly appeared and directly sucked him and Xia Shaochan in. Han Fei felt that waves of heat were blowing at his face. It was a bit like the corpse inlaid with the fire origin crystal that he encountered in the Fire Cloud Cave. It was very hot. Huh? There's no water. As soon as Han Fei and Xia Shaochan landed, they felt dozens of breaths. When he and Xia Shaochan stabilized their bodies, they saw a huge gate 100 meters high, on which the words, Fiery Mountain, were engraved. On both sides of the gate, there was a couplet engraved with the words, Pluck the heavenly fire, catch the spring and autumn. Han Fei only glanced at the door, only to be shocked by those words. Below the gate, there were 72 stone platforms. At this moment, Han Fei saw that half of the stone platforms were already occupied, and many people looked at Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Xia Shaochan was pleasantly surprised. Xiao Bai is here. Han Fei saw that Luo Xiaobai was sitting on the stone platform closest to the front. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai said to Han Fei, "This place is weird. Don't fight. Find a random stone platform and sit down." Han Fei frowned. "Xiaobai, what's going on?" Luo Xiaobai responded, "Every stone platform is a seal. Once you come up, you can't go down. We may have to wait for the right time. Maybe we have to wait for all the stone platforms to be full. If we act rashly, we will be blown out of here." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other and thought, is there such a weird setting? Fighting is not allowed. But it seems that it is not without benefits. Otherwise, if 67 of the 72 people are enemies, how can we fight this battle? Many people here looked at Han Fei and the others strangely, wishing they could attack them now, but the seals here were weird, so they could only give up. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan found a random stone platform and sat down. The moment they walked on the stone platform, an invisible seal instantly closed the area around the stone platform. Han Fei reached out and touched it, and an invisible barrier appeared around him. When he touched it with his finger, ripples appeared. Since he had nothing to do, Han Fei looked at the words on the giant gate. In fact, everyone was looking at these words. But some people couldn't bear to look at them after a few glances. Those words seemed to have some kind of magic power that made them unable to look at them for a long time. These words were all chiseled by hand and seemed to be carved on with a spear. Therefore, his words were filled with a murderous intent. After reading for about 5 minutes, Han Fei's eyes couldn't stand it anymore and he quickly closed his eyes. But data appeared in the demon purification pot. Saber manipulation technique, remarks, a transcendent saber manipulation technique. The saber is infused with killing intent. When you comprehend the saber intent, you will be able to control a saber. When you master it, you will become one with the saber. Comprehension, 100 deduced art, unknown deduction consumption, 010000000. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Is that even possible? I just read the words for 5 minutes and I comprehended a heaven-level combat skill. However, what surprised Han Fei was not the 10 million points of spiritual energy, but the meaning of the 2,100 points of comprehension. Could it be my own level of comprehension? That's not right. How the hell did I comprehend? I didn't even comprehend it, okay? After that, Han Fei quickly opened his eyes and looked at the words again. This time, he read them carefully. From the fiery mountain to the couplet, he read them word by word, stroke by stroke. Another 5 minutes later, Han Fei was almost in tears as he watched the video. His eyes were sore, and he closed his eyes. And the information of the demon purification pot really changed. Saber manipulation technique, remarks, a transcendent saber manipulation technique. The saber is infused with killing intent. When you comprehend the saber intent, you will be able to control a saber. When you master it, you will become one with the saber. Comprehension, 100 deduced art, unknown deduction consumption, 0.80000000 inch hiss. Han Fei gasped. In just a few minutes, the deduction of spiritual energy had decreased by 2 million points. For a moment, Han Fei was very excited. What a good place. What treasures are we looking for outside? This is a treasure. No, I haven't even entered the gate yet and I've already encountered a heaven-level combat skill. No, I have to take a look at it before others come. Xia Shaochan was sitting next to Han Fei. Seeing that Han Fei was a little emotional, she couldn't help asking, Han Fei, what's wrong with you? Han Fei said, it's okay. There is a saber intent on these words. Maybe it's an opportunity. Take a closer look. Cell phone website. Chapter 265. After another hour, 60 of the 72 seats had been occupied, but Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang hadn't arrived yet. Luo Xiaobai was rather anxious and spoke to Han Fei telepathically. Han Fei replied, "Don't panic. They might have been delayed. They're not idiots. They'll come. Read the words carefully. They're profound." It only took Han Fei 2 hours to study every word carefully. He even simulated how to write the words in his mind. At first, he only studied how to write the words, but later, he began to study how to write them with a knife. The more he studied, the more shocked Han Fei was. Every stroke seemed to be a technique with infinite variations. At this moment, Han Fei's understanding had reached 50%, and the deduction cost had been reduced to 3 million points. But Han Fei didn't stop. He read the words longer and longer, from copying them in his head to comparing them with the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. It was exactly because of Han Fei's movement that many people began to compare them. They seemed to have discovered the secret between the lines. Unfortunately, they couldn't look at the words for more than 2 minutes, and their eyes were so sore that tears flowed out. Another half an hour later, 2 people, one fat and one thin, fell from the sky. Following closely behind them were 5 figures. Han Fei knew all of them. They were Su Yebai's team. He didn't expect that they would chase Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang after failing to surround him. Zhang Xuanyu shouted, "Han Fei, I knew that we would run into you. Let's kill the 5 people behind us. They're such bullies." Lu Renkuang's face was pale. "You think we're outnumbered? Come on. I'll beat you to death." Han Fei said telepathically, "Shut up and sit on the rocks. Don't attack." Stunned, Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang looked at each other. Only then did he see the entire situation clearly, and he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. 60 people were sitting cross-legged on the stone platform, and the 2 of them sat on the platform without hesitation. Su Yebai's team seemed to have received the message the moment they landed and stopped. The girl holding the hammer opened her mouth and said, "You can finally speak now. People of the 4th Academy, I'll be waiting for you." Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. "Little girl, don't be too cocky. We're all here now, and I'll show you what real stick techniques are." "Pooh." Han Fei's face was black. "You've lost all my face." Zhang Xuanyu rubbed his head. "Why are you all looking at me? She said my rod skills are not good, but my rod skills are not good? Is she kidding me? Shut up." However, the girl opposite him was so angry that she was trembling. She wanted to fight Zhang Xuanyu for 300 rounds right now. Lu Renkuang was dumbfounded. "What are you doing?" Han Fei said telepathically, "Don't talk. Copy the words on the door. Hurry up, when everyone is here, I don't think we'll have time to copy it." Lu Renkuang and Zhang Xuanyu looked at each other again. The 2 of them immediately sat down cross-legged, as if they had completely forgotten about the situation where they were being chased. The girl seemed to want to say something else, but she was stopped by the opponent's armorist. "Zwa zwa, go to the stone platform." The 5 of them were not slow. They were right behind Zhang Xuanyu and the others. When they sat on the stone platform, there were only 3 stone platforms left. However, at this moment, everyone really hoped that the last 3 people wouldn't arrive so soon, because they had just gained some understanding of the words on the door. At this time, someone's aura was fluctuating. For example, Lu Renkuang, who had just sat down, had been staring at the words on the door for less than 3 minutes. At this moment, a strong knife intent burst out from his body. However, his eyes continued to stare at the words on the door without taking a break. Many people were stunned by what they saw. Is he a monster? Han Fei was also shocked. Damn, is this guy born with knives? On the back of the rock-holding turtle, everyone else saw the picture, but he saw a knife. And now the words on the wall were full of knife intent, which seemed to fit him very well. Not long after, Kang Yunfei arrived. Seeing the 60 or 70 people here, he couldn't help but be stunned. After seeing Han Fei, Kang Yunfei took out a fiery mountain token and threw it to him. Here you are. From now on, you and I are even. Under the dumbfounded gaze of many people, Han Fei happily took the fiery mountain token. He actually kind of liked this guy. He was too straightforward. It was a pity that none of the other people who owed Han Fei fiery mountain tokens could come in. Han Fei couldn't help complaining. Come on, brothers. Give me a few that I've robbed, okay? Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't get what he wanted in the end. When he comprehended 60% of the knife intent on the door and the deduction cost was reduced to 2 million, everyone was here. The people who came later were 2 students of the second academy. As soon as they arrived, everyone was here. Someone shouted, Zhang Yi, Lu Xian, get on the stone platform. The 2 of them seemed to be receiving voice transmissions from many people and were a little stunned for a moment, but soon they realized what was going on and even showed joy. The last 2 stone platforms were obtained by them. Boom! As soon as the 2 of them got on the stone platform, the door shook. In the next moment, the big words on the door suddenly burst out with dazzling golden light, and an extremely majestic momentum suddenly burst out from the words. What fell into everyone's eyes were countless knives, which seemed to be imprinted in everyone's mind with the momentum of splitting mountains and stones. Pooh! In an instant, dozens of people vomited blood. Then, an invisible force directly dragged these dozen people out of the stone platform and sucked them into a black hole. Don't panic, everyone. Stay alert. The strongest people of the 3 academies were all speaking and shouting at this moment. The pressure of this sudden knife intent was so strong that it seemed to be directly imprinted on people's souls and was going to kill them on the spot. Some people couldn't resist this momentum and were directly sucked away. God knew whether they were dead or alive. However, what happened just now was just the beginning. This golden light lasted for about a minute, and a total of 16 people were gone from the stone platform. Luo Xiaobai said to Han Fei via voice transmission, soul attack. Be careful of the next move. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. I'm fine. Those people's souls were probably too weak. Lu Renquang exclaimed, that was close. We ate the soul resistance pearls, or we would have been in danger. However, isn't a soul attack a spiritual attack? Zhang Xuanyu nodded. It seems so, but I don't think so. Let's talk about it later. Be careful now. Sure enough. When the golden light dissipated, an invisible golden knife floated in the void. As if it had a mind of its own, the knife suddenly swept across the air and aimed at everyone. Swish! The golden knife shot out. At first, it was a knife, but the next moment, it turned into a huge fish mouth. Han Fei could even see the teeth that were like small mountains. A tremor from the depths of his soul. Even Han Fei was a little horrified. He remembered the huge fish that swallowed the fishing boat. The feeling at this moment was the same, almost suffocating him. At this moment, Han Fei felt the little calabash on his wrist flash. Han Fei blinked subconsciously, but when he blinked, the big fish had disappeared. At the same time, many people around Han Fei disappeared. After 2 shocks, more than half of the 72 people were gone. Han Fei turned his head, only to see that Luo Xiaobai's face was a little pale and she was gasping for breath. Lu Renquang's whole body was tense, and beads of sweat were dripping. Xia Shaochan and Zhang Xuanyu didn't look too good either, but it didn't seem serious. Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei. There are only 24 people left. Han Fei was shocked. What the hell is this place? With just a few words, 2/3 of the people were killed, Luo Xiaobai said, those people shouldn't be dead. If it was so dangerous, the school wouldn't have let us come. These words are more like a test to see if we are qualified to enter the gate. Crack, crack, Crack hardly had Luo Xiaobai said that when the barrier around everybody was gone. At this moment, the 100-meter-tall gate emitted a heavy ka-ka sound. The sound seemed to come from thousands of years ago, and it seemed extremely ancient. The remaining 24 people quickly gathered together, and Luo Xiaobai, Lu Renquang, and the others quickly came to Han Fei. Han Fei waved his hand and performed the divine healing technique. The light sprinkled, and Lu Renquang snorted comfortably. Whew! That was so frustrating. I was almost scared to death just now. Luo Xiaobai took a long breath in relief. Thankfully, we made it. On the other side, Su Yebai and the others gathered too. At this moment, they were looking at Han Fei and the others. Among them, the spirit gatherer was healing the others with healing techniques. Huh, Han Fei, why is his healing technique different from yours? Zhang Xuanyu was quite curious. They had been used to Han Fei's divine healing technique. So, they didn't know the difference between other people's healing techniques and Han Fei's divine healing technique at all. Han Fei pretended to think and said, maybe. He's not good enough. What made Han Fei amused was that the four of them all nodded as if they agreed with Han Fei. Luo Xiaobai cautioned, be careful. We're still in a disadvantageous position. We have to be careful. Cell phone station. Chapter 266. As Luo Xiaobai said, there were a total of 24 people present. Apart from the 5 of them, there were a total of 19 people. These 19 people could all be said to be enemies. Among them, 2 groups had been tricked by Xia Shaochan. At this moment, they were staring at Han Fei's team. Xia Shaochan said, it's a bit difficult to fight 1 against 4, especially that group. If they attack, we can only escape into the gate. Xia Shaochan didn't blindly believe in strength anymore. The opponents were indeed strong. At this moment, the 24 people who could stay were all elites and geniuses. Only 24 people from the 4 academies of the Blue Sea Town stayed. What did it mean? Except for Han Fei's group and Su Yebai's group, Kang Yunfei and a guy wearing a mask were in a separate group, and the other 12 people gathered together. No matter whether they were from the same school or not, they were the weakest. Everyone knew that the 4th academy was strong and 5 people shouldn't be their opponents, but what about 10 people? At this time, the girl with the copper hammer pointed at Zhang Xuanyu. Little thief, run again. Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes. Are you crazy? I just hit your butt with the rod. Don't tell me you've fallen for yours truly. I'm telling you, you're hopeless. Han Fei was speechless. Zhang Xuanyu, how arrogant are you? You're still using your taunting skill. The leading armorist looked at Han Fei and said, Li Hani of the First Academy. In this situation, each of you will get 5 fiery mountain tokens, and we won't attack you. Fuck, Zhang Xuanyu almost cursed. Are you robbing us? The other 12-person team didn't even consider getting along with Han Fei's team. Nearly half of them had been robbed by Xia Shaochan. This matter couldn't be solved by giving them fiery mountain tokens. Han Fei glanced at the gate that had been slightly opened and said leisurely, Are you sure you can finish us before the gate opens? If you can't, have you considered the consequences? Someone sneered, Ha, there are only 5 of you. What can you do? Han Fei sneered. On the way, the 4th Academy didn't take the initiative to kill anyone. However, your decision now determines whether we will kill you later or not. Then Han Fei pointed at Li Hani and the others. It's not easy to beat the 5 of them. But if we fight you, how many of you can survive? When he spoke, he was talking to the 12 people. However, at the same time, he spoke to Luo Xiaobai and the other 4, go all out and kill Li Hani. Don't hold back. Luo Xiaobai and the other 3 were slightly shocked. Should they attack first? Without waiting for the 12 people to reply. In fact, Han Fei knew that these 12 people were not a problem. They were just a temporary group. They came from 3 different academies, and they weren't familiar with each other at all. They didn't cooperate with each other, and they couldn't even find a backbone. Was this a fight? Fight my ass. Li Hani and the other 4 were watching from the side. They might make a move if they wanted to. This feeling made Han Fei very uncomfortable, as if he and the others were fish on the chopping block. Attach. Han Fei's face was still facing the 12 people, but the 9-tailed mantis shrimp had already attached itself to him, and the 9 heavens chains and the 20 blue sea wandering dragon daggers were shot out at the same time. Lu Renkuang's armor box was immediately opened. Bloodthirsty broadsword. Armor crisscross, vine explosion. Giant arowana. Blood-burning, mystic killing rod. Almost in an instant, the 5 of them focused on Li Hani. Holding the blue sea wandering dragon bow, Han Fei cursed, "Armorist. I don't care what level you are. How dare you threaten us? Who the fuck do you think you are?" Swish, an arrow was shot out in an instant, and the spiritual energy arrow arrived in the blink of an eye. Li Hani's face changed drastically. No one expected that Han Fei and the others would attack first. And they attacked the 5 of them. Was this guy crazy? The 12 people over there were ready to attack. Didn't you see them? But at this moment, Li Hani didn't have time to think. The moment the armor box landed, 4 huge shields appeared in the air, directly wrapping him up. Holding the copper hammer in her left hand, she jumped up violently, and the huge pair of pincers outside her body blocked in front of Li Hani. At the same time, her body was covered with spiritual crystals, which seemed to be the ability of her spiritual beast. Among the other 3, the spirit gatherer couldn't even step on the water wall. Han Fei and the others attacked so fast that they didn't even give him time to react. Su Yebai's eternal night black spider appeared, but it only had time to spit out silk to entangle them and didn't have time to carry out the next move. As for the hunter who disappeared immediately, he had already encountered Xia Shaochan in the sky. Xia Shaochan directly teleported over. Her sudden appearance gave him a fright. Bam, 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 clang, clang, clang. Rumble. Although Li Hani's defense was really strong, 2 of his 4 shields were directly destroyed by the sudden bombardment. The other 2 shields were spiritual weapons, but the blue sea wandering dragon daggers were also spiritual weapons. At this moment, he was hacking the 2 shields crazily. Puff! Li Hani vomited a mouthful of blood, not because of anything, but because he was injured by a huge force. Han Fei had already shot the second arrow, and at the same time, he turned around and shouted at the 12 people, "Whoever dares to come here today, kill." The 12 people had long been stunned. Han Fei attacked without thinking for a second. Was he so violent? On the other side, Kang Yunfei's eyelids shivered. Wasn't this bastard too decisive? They actually made a diversion and caught Li Hani and the others off guard. As for the masked guy, he couldn't see his face, but his eyes were full of surprise. The second arrow of spiritual energy was shot out with 400 points of spiritual energy. It was very powerful, but it was useless against Li Hani. The spirit gatherer who realized what was going on had already set up a water wall and poured abundant spiritual energy into Li Hani's body. Zhang Xuanyu's mystic kill rod collided with Sua's twin hammers. The enormous shockwaves caused ripples in the air. Han Fei's third arrow was already on the bowstring, and Su Yebai reacted quickly and dragged Li Hani away. In the next moment, one of the 2 shields was broken by the blue sea wandering dragon daggers, and the other was blown away by an arrow. Sua, who had just been blown back with Zhang Xuanyu, bounced on the spot. This was because an enraged blade had already neared him. It was aimed at Su Yebai. If nobody blocked it, Su Yebai wouldn't be able to resist it as a manipulator. Su Yebai shouted, "Watch out! You can't dodge it!" Zua roared, 9 forged divine hammers. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. Spiritual energy surged out of Zua's arms, and she knocked the bloodthirsty broadsword away 9 times in a row. Lu Rinquang vomited blood immediately, his face pale. Of course, Zuo was even more miserable than Lu Rinquang. Her arms were bleeding from her hands to her shoulders. But at this time, Han Fei shot the fourth arrow. Not far away, Kang Yunfei narrowed his eyes. He remembered this arrow. It was so powerful that it was almost an attack of an intermediate great fishing master with all his spiritual energy. Li Hani waved his hand, and the remaining spiritual energy shield blocked in front of him. Bam! Li Hani was blown away together with his shield. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his arms were shivering. Han Fei roared, fury. Take my fifth arrow. Li Hani almost went crazy. Are these people lunatics? They fought without any hesitation, and they fought with their lives. They were all killing moves at the beginning of the battle. Above him, a dragon roar shocked the whole cave, and a person was smashed to the ground with a bam. Xia Shaochan showed up. Xia Shaochan revealed herself. Humph! Su Yebai roared, Han Fei, stop. Let's make peace. Han Fei cursed, make peace, my ass. The fifth arrow was shot out with 3,200 points of spiritual energy, which was beyond Han Fei's limit. When the arrow was shot, it was as if a giant dragon made of spiritual energy was roaring out of its body. Li Hani took a deep breath. I have a mountain that's as solid as a rock. A giant conical shell the size of a hill appeared out of thin air and took Han Fei's arrow head-on. Rumble, violent explosions. Xia, who was in the middle of a battle, was sent flying. Su Yebai and the spirit gatherer were almost unable to resist the blast. Han Fei shot a hole through the cone-shaped hill. Li Hani rolled dozens of times on the ground and vomited a lot of blood in a row. At the moment when the attack stopped, a huge spider grabbed Li Hani and the other 4 people and rushed into the crack of the door in the blink of an eye, running away. Han Fei cursed, what the hell is this? How dare you threaten the 4th Academy? Even if I don't want the opportunity, I'll take it. The 12 people next to him looked at the sky and the ground, dumbfounded. Damn it, are we still going to fight? These people from the 4th Academy are all lunatics. Cell phones. Chapter 267. Han Fei and the other 4's violent attacks deterred the rest of the people. How could the 12 people still have the intention to fight back? Based on the strength that Han Fei and the others showed just now, even if the 12 of them could win, they would at least lose more than half of them. Who would be stupid enough to fight them? Han Fei looked back at these people. Why, do you want to try? Humph. Come in. Someone ignored Han Fei. Compared with opportunities, fighting Han Fei and the others was an extremely stupid thing to do. Kang Yunfei took a deep look at Han Fei, turned around, and walked in without saying a word. But the masked guy didn't leave but looked at Han Fei and the others. Do you know who the people you just beat are? Han Fei was in a bad mood. I don't care who they are. And you, why are you wearing a mask? The masked man didn't care at all and said calmly, the armorist is named Li Hani, ranked 2nd in the top 100 list of the 3 academies, and his spiritual beast is mountain-carrying conch. The girl is Xiang Zuozua, her spiritual beast is giant pincer shark crystal crab, ranked 3rd. The spirit gatherer Lin Xingmu, his spiritual beast is spirit crystal fish, ranked 7th. The hunter Zhongyu, his spiritual beast is blood guillotine, ranked 4th. As for Su Yebai, you should know him, his spiritual beast is eternal night black spider, ranked 8th. Han Fei and the others were slightly taken aback. Good heavens, they were really in the top 10. Luo Xiaobai's voice was cold. Why are you telling us this? What's your purpose? The masked man said leisurely, no purpose. I'm just amazed by your strength. You are indeed very strong. However, don't underestimate them. They were completely unprepared just now. Next time we meet, it won't be like this. With that, the man turned around and walked into the door. Zhang Xuanyu snorted. I don't think this guy is a good guy. He's wearing a mask and looks mysterious. Luo Xiaobai nodded. This person shouldn't be weak, but he's right. The 5 people just now were really unprepared. Next time we meet, it'll be hard to say. Lu Renquang said in surprise, where is the first place in the top 100 list of the 3 academies? He must be very strong. Why isn't he here? Xia Xiaochan said, maybe he's in the crowd. There might be experts among the 12 people just now. Luo Xiaobai nodded. That's right. Those 12 people were temporarily formed by the 3 academies. Moreover, it was said that the number 1 on the list was not from the first academy, but the 3rd academy. This person is very mysterious. Han Fei wondered, could it be the one wearing a mask just now? From his words, there was a suspicion that he was trying to sow discord. I think it's very possible. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Anyway, let's go in first. Just a single sect here already had such a huge fortuitous encounter. I'm afraid the opportunities inside won't be small. Everyone nodded. Especially Han Fei. If there were no accidents, he should get the greatest opportunity. The same was true for Lu Renquang. As soon as he sat down, he moved. He might have benefited a lot too. Everyone walked through the door together, and waves of heat hit them in the face. Everyone's field of vision suddenly lit up, and they were immediately stunned. This space was incomparably huge. It was actually connected to the underwater volcano. Everyone was standing at the edge of the cliff. Looking forward, they saw a volcanic rock, and at the bottom was boiling lava. From time to time, it would gush out a few times. The most shocking thing was that in the magma, there was a kind of creature that flapped its tail from time to time. Unfortunately, it was too far away, and their color was similar to magma, so they couldn't see clearly. And in the very center of this huge space, there was a palace floating in the air. The palace was shackled to the rock wall by hundreds of huge red chains. Han Fei and the others gasped. It was too shocking. This kind of shock was no less than when Han Fei saw the floating island for the first time. Although this palace was much smaller than the floating island, the environment was really shocking. Luo Xiaobai's face was slightly pale. My strength is suppressed. I can only exert 70% of my strength at most here. This couldn't be helped. Luo Xiaobai's strength was her vines. Although she could summon vines out of the void, it depended on where she was. The temperature here was extremely high. After standing for a while, everyone's foreheads were sweating. 5 blue sea wandering dragon daggers immediately appeared in front of Han Fei's eyes. Take 1 each. It should be able to resist the heat waves here. Everyone hurriedly grabbed the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. If they were outside, their hands would be frozen when they grabbed the blue sea wandering dragon daggers. In less than a minute, their hands would be covered with a layer of frost. But in this place, everyone only felt a wave of comfort. The surrounding heat waves had suddenly decreased a bit. Lu Renquang said, comfortable. Hey! But, where are those people? Xia Xiaochan said, look at those chains. Everyone looked over, only to see people walking on the chains in the distance. However, these people were very slow and seemed to be walking step by step. Han Fei drew his dagger and slashed at the chain. But to his surprise, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers only left a shallow white mark on the chain. This was a spiritual weapon. Although it didn't have a sealed spirit, it was still a spiritual weapon, okay? Han Fei grabbed the chain with one hand, but then he retracted his hand and opened his hand, only to find that it was red. Han Fei said helplessly, it's very hot, very hot. Everyone, Xia Xiaochan said, let me try, attach. Xia Xiaochan's contractual spiritual beast, the red fire tricky lobster, was in the nature of fire. She jumped and stood on the chain, and in just a few seconds, the soles of her shoes were burned through, and Xia Xiaochan became barefooted. Xia Shaochan lifted her 2 little feet back and forth on the chain, and finally jumped to the ground. Ah! It's too hot. What if I don't want to go? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. This should be a test. Look, someone is walking back over there. Everyone looked over, and sure enough, 2 people were looking back. One of them was unsteady, less than 20 meters away from the edge of the cliff, and his whole body was shaking. In the next second, this person's foot slipped. His whole body tilted and he fell directly into the magma. Ah, help me. Seeing this scene, Han Fei and the others felt their blood freeze. They really didn't know what it felt like to fall into magma. Although they were all cultivators, if they couldn't even resist the chain, how could they resist the magma? However, it was hard to say. Han Fei estimated that if he fell in, he might not be burned to death. After all, as far as he knew, ordinary magma that overflowed was only about 1,000 degrees, and only the orange-red ones were more than 3,000 degrees. The one he was facing now was 3,000 degrees. But now his physique could resist magic weapons. Would he die if he fell in? Most likely, he wouldn't die. But would it hurt? His head would definitely explode from the heat. However, what happened next was even more chilling. Before the boy fell into the magma, a few strange fish jumped out of the magma. In the blink of an eye, they ate the boy in a few mouthfuls. Gudu. Lu Renquang shivered. Fei Fei. Lend me 2 knives. Han Fei. Lu Renquang said, I'll tie them under my feet. It should be okay to walk over like this, right? Everyone. Zhang Xuanyu slapped Lu Renquang. What kind of good idea are you coming up with? Ha ha ha, Fei Fei. Lend me 2 knives too. Xia Shaochan added, me too. Even Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. Han Fei was also speechless. That's too much. My blue sea wandering dragon daggers are spiritual weapons. Do you think they are your shoes? Han Fei hesitated for a moment and dozens of blue sea wandering dragon daggers appeared. Can you walk with a knife under your feet? Lu Renquang and Zhang Xuanyu nodded. Yes, yes. Look at those people. God knows how they survived. They didn't even scream. Han Fei was puzzled. It shouldn't be. Even if we walk up, we feel extremely hot and can't walk. There are many people here who are weaker than us. Why can they walk? Luo Xiaobai was silent, and Lu Renquang and Zhang Xuanyu had begun to tie knives to their feet. Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai said, Fiery mountain tokens. Huh? Everyone frowned and immediately said, let me try. 28 fiery mountain tokens suddenly floated around Han Fei. Then, Han Fei jumped on the chain and said in shock, yes, fiery mountain tokens. Lu Renquang was shocked. Damn. So many. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Fei Fei, how many people have you robbed? Luo Xiaobai and the others looked at Han Fei up and down, and Luo Xiaobai said, enough chit-chat. Look, there seems to be some kind of energy on the chain that is being absorbed by the fiery mountain tokens. Han Fei grabbed the fiery mountain token, only to hear a sizzling sound. Han Fei quickly let go of it and blew at his hands. Damn! This fiery mountain token can absorb heat. Cell phone website. Chapter 268. Lu Renquang and Zhang Xuanyu were both embarrassed, but they didn't intend to return the blue sea wandering dragon daggers to Han Fei. They put their sabers behind their backs and almost cried out in pleasure. Zhang Xuanyu said, Fei Fei, try to see how many fiery mountain tokens you can walk on. The guy who fell down just now must have a fiery mountain token. But he still fell down. There's only one reason. He has too few fiery mountain tokens. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes, let's have a try. Han Fei immediately collected half of the fiery mountain tokens, took a few steps, and felt that there was no problem. So he collected another 5 or 6. This time, Han Fei felt that his feet were a little hot. He quickly took out a few more. When the number of fiery mountain tokens was maintained at 10, Han Fei felt that it was just right. The feeling under his feet was like walking on an asphalt road in summer. Although it was hot, he could still walk after putting on his shoes. So in the end, Han Fei put the fiery mountain tokens down to 15. At this moment, he felt as if he were walking barefoot on the ground. It was neither cold nor hot. Han Fei said, 10 is a little hot, but 15 is like walking on the ground. Lu Renkuang said with a sad face, lend me 7. Zhang Xuanyu said, lend me 6. Xia Shaochan asked, Xiaobai, how many do you have? Luo Xiaobai said, I appeared directly on the mountain. I only met one person, so I only have 2 with me. Xia Shaochan waved her hand, and 13 fiery mountain tokens floated to Luo Xiaobai. Okay, that's enough. Zhang Xuanyu immediately took a breath. Xia Shaochan, how many fiery mountain tokens do you have? Xia Shaochan said casually, 37. Everyone, Luo Xiaobai said in surprise, so many. Xia Shaochan said with a smile, I happened to meet a lot of people, so I robbed them. Luo Xiaobai was slightly delighted. Okay, the 5 of us have 84 fiery mountain tokens, almost 1/3 of the total. This means that even if the remaining fiery mountain tokens are with the other 19 people, they will only have 11 on average, which is almost impossible. For example, Li Hani and the other 4 also have a lot of fiery mountain tokens. Xia Shaochan said indifferently, that's none of our business. Anyway, we'll rob them later. Luo Xiaobai pondered for a moment and said, if my guess is correct, you can leave as long as you have 5 or 6 fiery mountain tokens. For example, Shaochan, you have an affinity with fire, so you may only need 5 pieces to pass through. So, most of these people should be able to make it through. We'll have a lot of opponents later. Ah! While everyone was talking, they saw another person fall from the long chain. The scene from before happened again. Lu Renkuang shivered. Forget it. 15 yuan is good enough. What if it's too hot in the middle? What if something went wrong on the way? It doesn't matter what others think, as long as we have enough, that's enough. So, they divided the fiery mountain tokens equally and jumped on the chain. However, after walking for less than 30 meters, everyone felt that something was wrong. The problem did not come from the chains under his feet, but from the gravity on his body. Lu Renkuang was the first to shout, something's wrong. I feel that the pressure is getting heavier and heavier. Han Fei nodded. Me too. No wonder those people are walking step by step. They don't give them a chance to take advantage of the situation. Luo Xiaobai cautioned, be careful. Even if we reach the opposite palace, I'm afraid something else will happen. This chain is not the only test. The 5 of them gritted their teeth and moved forward step by step. In fact, as Lu Renkuang said before, when they were 100 meters ahead, they didn't feel anything under their feet. But when they walked for nearly 500 meters, their feet began to heat up. When they were nearly a kilometer away, their feet were slightly hot, and this was when each of them had 15 fiery mountain tokens. Ah! Suddenly, there was another scream. Someone's entire body was set ablaze and he fell down. This person didn't give up. He took out his fishing rod and tied the chain, trying to land again. However, with a chi-la sound, the fishing line also caught fire, and it snapped in less than a breath's time. Lu Renkuang swallowed. Han Fei, do you have any extra fiery mountain tokens? Can you lend me 2 more? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Ask Xia Shaochan for more. Xia Shaochan didn't care and immediately threw 2 fiery mountain tokens to Lu Renkuang. Fatty, you are the weakest. When we go back, it's time for you to temper your body. Lu Renkuang said aggrievedly, my body is actually very strong. It's just that I'm afraid of heat. You know that. Zhang Xuanyu snorted. Okay, don't take it for granted. As for the other guys in chains, I don't believe that each of them has 15 fiery mountain tokens. A total of 305 people came in, and all the fiery mountain tokens added up are not enough for 24 people to get 15 each. Lu Renkuang patted his chest. Fortunately, we have Han Fei and Xia Shaochan. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would be difficult for us to pass this chain. Everyone chatted with each other. When they walked for a kilometer, their feet became hot again, and the pressure on their bodies became heavier again. This force seemed to make sure that every step you took was solid, not giving you a chance to get away with it at all. On one of the chains separated by 7 or 8 chains, 2 people were set ablaze. However, these 2 people were brave enough to directly activate their spiritual energy protective covers. At the same time, they fused with their spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts to carry the chain. When Han Fei and the others walked forward for less than 500 meters, finally the 2 people also fell down. In the end, they still couldn't carry the chain. Han Fei was shocked. Opportunities represented opportunities for cultivation. To become stronger, there was always a price to pay. 24 people came in, and just walking on a chain, 5 of them had already died. This was arguably the strongest group of people in the 3 academies. When they walked for 2 kilometers, they seemed to have walked to the most central position. The chains here had already begun to burn their feet. At this moment, everyone's fiery mountain tokens had become red as if they had just been taken out of the furnace. Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's continue. This should be the hottest place. Everything will be fine after we pass." Han Fei felt that he could persist. He looked back at Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renkuang, only to find that the 2 of them were holding his blue sea wandering dragon daggers against their feet, touching the soles of their feet from time to time and showing a comfortable look. "Look." Suddenly, Xia Shaochan pointed to a chain not far away. There was a guy on it, his whole body on fire. However, he walked faster and faster. On the other side, there were several people similar to him. And the closer they were to the palace, the denser the convergence points of the chains were. Han Fei saw Li Hani and the other 4 people, only to find that these people were nearly 500 meters faster than him. And the guy with the mask was even faster than Li Hani and the others. Han Fei's expression changed slightly, and he immediately said to Luo Xiaobai via voice transmission, speed up, in case they arrive first and then attack us." Luo Xiaobai was surprised. "Can you speed up?" Han Fei nodded. "I can still bear the pressure." "No problem." Xia Shaochan nodded. "I'm fine with it too." Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Even if I speed up, I can't catch up." Lu Renkuang didn't speak. "I didn't hear you. You want me to speed up?" "Well, I have to be able to add it first." Luo Xiaobai said, "You and Shaochan go first. Our physiques are weak, so we can't speed up." Han Fei nodded, released his spiritual energy, and immediately ran on the chain. Xia Shaochan was even more unbelievable. She flashed 100 meters away. The 3 people behind were dumbfounded. Zhang Xuanyu's eyes were dazed. "I wonder if there are combat skills for this flashing ability. I really want to learn it." Lu Renkuang sighed. Han Fei's physique is really amazing. Even under such pressure, he can still run. On the other side, Li Hani and the others had obviously found Han Fei and the others. Seeing Han Fei running, they were also stunned. "What kind of physique is this?" Li Hani shouted in a low voice, "Speed up, we must arrive before them." The distance of less than 2,000 meters seemed to have become a death race, and the others who were still walking on the chain were dumbfounded. Some people who were slightly behind were speechless. Why the hell do I have to compete with these freaks for opportunities? Han Fei was running like an ordinary person, but Xia Shaochan was a super athlete. With a swish, she moved forward 100 meters, much faster than Han Fei. 3 minutes later, Xia Shaochan was the first to reach the end of the chain, and Han Fei had just finished 1,000 meters. Xia Shaochan, on the other hand, was running to Li Honey's team. Su Yabai, who was in Li Honey's team, had turned into a giant spider and tied dozens of spider threads to the stairs at the end of the chain. He was running crazily too, but with the advantage of the spider threads and having multiple feet. Seeing that Su Yabai was the first to arrive, Xia Shaochan snorted. "You got me last time. Why don't you try poisoning me again?" Xia Shaochan disappeared. The next moment, a dagger a dagger suddenly appeared before Su Yabai. Cell phone website. Chapter 269. Supreme Stab. Swish, 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 a layer of crystal armor suddenly appeared in front of Su Yabai. With a clang, Su Yabai was flung away. He rolled a dozen times on the ground and vomited a mouthful of blood. Su Yabai was frustrated too. "I'm just a manipulator, and you want me to fight a hunter? Or someone like Xia Shaochan? How could they play ball?" Not just Su Yabai, Lin Xingmu, a spirit gatherer in Li Honey's team, also vomited a mouthful of blood. "Huh! See gate." When Xia Shaochan was about to attack again, Li Honey suddenly roared. A mystic light fell and turned into a gate, blocking Xia Shaochan's attack. 1,000 threads. Su Yabai took the opportunity to perform a skill, and countless spider threads darted at her from all directions. The spider threads were fluorescent and full of venom. Xia Shaochan flashed and appeared outside of the spider threads, but she lost the last chance to attack the enemy. At this moment, Li Honey finally arrived. His advantage of starting earlier than Han Fei's team was obvious. At this moment, Li Honey pressed his armor box to the ground, and spears flew in the air. Hew, hew, hew. Unfortunately, Li Honey was not an armorist like Lu Renquang, who focused on both offense and defense. The spears were fierce, but they couldn't touch Xia Shaochan at all. "Humph! You can dodge them, but can they?" Then, the spears jumped at Han Fei, who was running wildly like a dragon. Bam! The phantom of a big seal appeared, and Han Fei, who was running, patted the spear with the water-stirring seal. The enormous force smashed the spear into the magma. Li Honey frowned. This Han Fei seems to be a bit strong. When he was less than 100 meters away from the other end, Han Fei suddenly accelerated. At the same time, he attached the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and nailed the 9 chains to the steps not far away. Han Fei jumped into the air, and 20 blue sea wandering dragon daggers appeared next to him. The daggers fell like rain and cut through the sky. Li Honey sneered, and a turtle shell appeared before him. In his eyes, Han Fei's attack was meaningless. As the captain of this team as an armorist, he was very confident in his armory. However, Han Fei sneered in midair. With a twist of the blade, the sky-covering spider web was instantly cut into pieces, and Xia Shaochan had already disappeared. Li Han shouted angrily, "Be careful." Su Yabai cursed in his heart. Why did he have to pick a fight with Han Fei? Especially the two in front of him, they were ridiculously strong. The 3 turtle shells landed in front of Su Yabai with loud thuds. At the same time, spirit chi flashed and a spirit chi armor appeared on Su Yabai's body. However, could the turtle shell protect Su Yabai? There was an explosion from the tortoiseshell, and a dark green poisonous smoke came out from the cracks of the tortoiseshell. At this time, Xia Shaochan was already dozens of meters away, her face pale. Li Honey withdrew the tortoise shell, only to see Su Yabai kneeling on the ground with one hand covering his abdomen and a spiritual energy protective cover on his body. The crystal armors were all broken, and the crystal armors were drenched in blood. Lin Xingmu, the spirit gatherer on the chain, vomited blood again and staggered. Su Yabai's crystal battle suit was his. Lin Xingmu was infuriated after being attacked again and again. Han Fei chuckled. What's wrong? Where's the prestige of the 5 of you? Do you think a few turtle shells are enough? Han Fei grabbed the water-stirring seal and charged forward. Li Honey also made up his mind. No one knew whether it was a spear or a spear, but he kept shooting wildly. But Han Fei didn't even bother to block them. Although they had not completely lost weight, they were no longer fat. Their bodies were light, and they were all fans. The others on the chains were dumbfounded by his actions. Swish, 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 the spears brushed past Han Fei's body. By the time Han Fei approached, Li Honey had been covered in a round turtle shell shield. Clang! The water-stirring seal hit the shield with all its strength, and the sound echoed in the whole space. But then, Han Fei felt a huge recoil force, which bounced him away. Li Honey sneered. Under the strongest defense, even if your strength is doubled, what can you do? Han Fei narrowed his eyes and then shifted his gaze. Just when Han Fei shifted his gaze, he saw Suyabai's 6 spider legs dashing away quickly, setting up countless spider webs in all directions. Han Fei, Xia Shaochan, clang, 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 Han Fei took a deep breath. I don't care how strong your counterforce is. I'll smash it a few times first. Li Honey was stunned. You know the counterforce? Why are you still smashing it? Are you out of your mind? However, Li Honey didn't know that Han Fei's physique was ridiculously strong in addition to his strength. You can resist my water-stirring seal, and I can resist the counterforce too. If I don't smash you to death, I'll shock you to death, bam. 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 Then an amazing scene took place. Han Fei raised the big seal and smashed it, making the whole space buzz. In the end, Han Fei's arm was numb. Li Honey, in the turtle shell, finally turned pale and vomited blood. At this time, the soul warrior named Xiang Zuozua approached and shouted at Han Fei, Han Fei, I'll fight you. Han Fei grinned and said, Li Honey, hand over all your fiery mountain tokens. Otherwise, none of them can come here. Li Honey's face changed, and he tried to block Han Fei with a big shield. However, Han Fei slipped away with a twist. Holding the super big brick of the water-stirring seal, he smashed it at Xiang Zuozua. Unparalleled hammer. In the sky, a shadow of a sledgehammer tens of meters in size smashed at the water-stirring seal. Rumble, Xiang Zuozua let out a muffled groan and was sent flying dozens of meters away. Her nostrils were bleeding. And Han Fei also took 5 or 6 steps back, and his arms were numb. He shook his hand with great effort. This girl was strange. Her strength was so great that it was shocking. She was actually evenly matched with him. Xia Shaochan disappeared. Suyabai's white spider silk snake shot over, each with venom on it. When they came close to Han Fei, the venom was vaporized. Han Fei shouted, Xia Shaochan, retreat. On Han Fei's side, the blue sea wandering dragon daggers danced wildly. Holding the water-stirring seal, he looked at Li Honey and then at Xiang Zuozua, shouting again, give me your fiery mountain tokens and I'll go. Otherwise, none of them can come here, but my people are about to arrive. Li Honey glanced at Zhang Xuanyu who was about to come over and frowned. Although he was very strong, he was not a complete attacker like Lu Renkuang. And his attack methods were almost useless against Han Fei, which was the key to the problem. If Zhang Xuanyu and the others came over, it would be really dangerous. Immediately, Li Honey shot dozens of fiery mountain tokens at the middle cliff and threatened, if Xia Shaochan snatches them, we'll fight to the death. Han Fei grinned and immediately shot out. Could it be that I can really stop Xiang Zuozua and the others? When the next member arrives, I won't be able to resist them. However, fortunately, he scared Li Honey. Han Fei reached out and took 13 fiery mountain tokens into his pocket. In this way, he now had 97 fiery mountain tokens on his side. If there was no accident, he had already occupied the first place. After Han Fei collected the fiery mountain tokens, Xiang Zuozua rushed to the cliff, and Zhang Xuanyu also arrived on the other side. At this moment, they didn't continue to fight, because the masked man on the other side had already stood up and watched the battle while Han Fei and the others were fighting. The others, such as Kong Yunfei, had also arrived. The others were also about to arrive. If they continued to fight, not to mention whether they could get the treasures or not, it was likely to cause a melee. At that time, if a group of people died first, it would be a mess. As soon as Zhang Xuanyu came ashore, he picked up his rod and looked ready to fight at any time. Fuck, you're finally here. Do you still want to fight? Han Fei scoffed. It's all over. If you had come earlier, I wouldn't have had to snatch a dozen fiery mountain tokens. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. I thought so too. Isn't my ability limited? I think I'm already fast enough. Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang are still 200 meters away. After a while, everyone was here. The previous 12-person team now only had 7 people left. Among these 7 people, one seemed to be seriously injured. His skin and flesh were all burnt, and he looked like a human barbecue. The spirit gatherer among these people was healing him. On the other side, Lin Shengmu was also healing Su Yebai and the others. At this moment, it was basically clear what everyone's abilities were. Aside from Kong Yunfei and the masked man, no one knew if the two of them had formed a group. In any case, the situation was in a stalemate, and no one moved. Therefore, everyone turned their eyes to the front of the palace. On the door, a crimson plaque inlaid with gold-red, Starfire Pavilion. You can find this place as soon as possible. Mobile phone station. Chapter 270. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai spoke first. Now, everyone's strength should be about the same. In this case, why don't we enter the palace first? As for other things, let's get out of here, okay? Someone in the group of 7 immediately nodded. Okay. We have no problem with that. Although there might be hidden masters among the 7 of them, at least on the surface, they were the weakest. Although there might be hidden masters among the 7 of them, at least on the surface, they were the weakest. Even if there were only 2 of them, the masked man and Kong Yunfei didn't look weaker than them. Li Hani took a deep look at Luo Xiaobai. Okay. The masked man nodded. Okay. Maybe someone will die in this palace. Although she said they wouldn't fight on the surface, Luo Xiaobai secretly said to Han Fei, we have to guard against these people. After entering, don't disperse. Wait and see. Then Luo Xiaobai waved her hand and pushed the door with vines. Creak. At first, Han Fei thought that the door couldn't be opened so casually. In the end, with a creak, the door was pushed open, and it was slowly opening with the sound of clacking sounds. When they saw the scene behind the door, everyone couldn't help frowning. They thought that behind the door would be a scene like a palace courtyard, but it turned out to be a ground full of stone tablets. Some stone tablets were even broken, leaving only half of them. There were a lot of stone tablets, vertical and horizontal, more than 10,000 in total, stretching as far as 3,000 meters. On the other side of the stone tablets, there was a new palace. Everyone was thinking that this beautiful palace looked like a barren land that had decayed for many years inside. What secrets were hidden here? They walked in one after another. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. These were not tombstones. Every stone tablet was blank. There was not a single word on it, not even a scratch. Lu Renkuang waved his hand and slashed out with a knife. However, to everyone's surprise, the stone tablet was not damaged at all. It could even be said that it didn't even leave a scratch. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, wait. There are many broken stone tablets here. Weren't they destroyed by someone? Among the 7 people, someone walked into the group of stone tablets first. But after just a few seconds, the ground was trembling slightly. Among the countless stone tablets, dozens of stone tablets began to shake slightly one after another. This scene aroused everyone's curiosity. The young man walked to the stone tablet closest to him, and his whole body seemed to be frozen. At this time, the others were surprised to find that the stone tablet had become blurry. Xia Shaochan said telepathically, "There must be something on the steel, but we can't see it." The others also looked on. Everyone noticed this problem. These stone tablets were shaking because of that person just now. But immediately after, the youth quickly walked towards another stone tablet. After stopping for a moment, he continued walking towards the other stone tablets. When he reached the 8th stone tablet, he stopped for less than 10 breaths of time. With a cracking sound, the stone tablet shattered. At this point, the ground stopped trembling, and all the stone tablets stopped shaking. The young man wanted to walk forward, but after taking 2 steps, he turned around and looked at the remaining 6 people in his group. He seemed to be transmitting his voice. The expressions of these people changed slightly, and they suddenly walked into the steel forest. Buzz buzz buzz, more than 1,000 stone steels trembled. The 6 of them spread out and each found a stone steel to stand on. Han Fei and the others looked at each other. What's attracting them on the steel? Cultivation method? Combat skill? Or what? Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Enter." Almost at the same time, Li Honey's team also entered. That was great. Countless stone steels began to shake. Wherever someone went, everything would tremble. This scene frightened the person who was about to leave. Immediately, he began to sprint and ran to the opposite palace. As Kong Yunfei and the masked man entered, it seemed that all the stone tablets were shaking. The scene was spectacular and breathtaking. After entering the field, Han Fei suddenly felt as if there were countless stone tablets calling him. It felt like there were 2 people on his left and right, both holding his hand and trying to pull him over. At first, Han Fei didn't feel any difference. Han Fei walked to a stone tablet that was calling him, glanced at it, and a line of text appeared on the stone tablet. Dragon Taming Fist, Spirit Level Low Quality Combat Skill. The fist opens 4 paths, containing 2 fist explosions. Han Fei blinked. That's it? Huh? Han Fei felt a slight fluctuation, which seemed to be the connection between this stone tablet and himself. It seemed that as long as he grasped the feeling of this fluctuation, he could get this combat skill. Han Fei raised his head and glanced at the others. Some were changing the stone tablets, and some were standing in front of the stone tablets, pondering. Han Fei smiled. It turned out that this place was just like the college library. However, unlike the library, one could choose their own combat skill there. Here, the combat skill would choose oneself. Interesting. Han Fei ignored the stone tablet just now. Spirit level low quality combat skills? I might as well go to school to find them. Any one of them is better than yours. Do I have to take such a big risk to come here? Along the way, Han Fei felt the calling strength of different stone tablets. He walked straight forward, and when he was halfway through, he found that the general calling strength had become the same. So Han Fei found another stone tablet to look at. Water Escape Technique, Demon Level Mid-Quality Combat Skill. A secret method in the water that could detonate a large amount of spiritual energy and instantly leave the battlefield. If one mastered it, he could travel 100 kilometers in an instant. 100 kilometers in an instant? It sounded like it was very powerful. However, thinking of the scene of Wenren Yu catching fish from 1,000 kilometers away, Han Fei shook his head. 1,000 kilometers in an instant? I can think about it. 100 kilometers in an instant is too short. Han Fei looked at the stone tablets one by one and found that almost all of them were demon-level mid-quality combat skills. It was rare to see a demon-level high-quality combat skill. Then he found that it was a knife. Han Fei was helpless. My million knife art is a demon-level high-quality technique, and the saber manipulation art I just learned at the entrance is even a heaven-level high-quality technique. Why do I need so many knife techniques? Gotcha! At this time, another person got a technique. As soon as he got the technique, he immediately ran to the opposite palace. Lu Renquang said to Han Fei via voice transmission, "Should we hurry up and choose? I think the combat skills here are not as good as those in our library." "Maybe the good things are still in the opposite palace," Han Fei said. "Opportunities are unpredictable. It doesn't make much difference whether we go early or late. The weakest one walks in front, and we'll cover the back. Don't panic. I don't think it matters. Most of the combat skills here are not suitable for me." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Let's look again." Han Fei walked out of this area. He didn't bother to look at the stone tablets one by one and went straight to the stone tablet with the strongest summoning power. See suppressing hand heaven level, mid-quality combat skill using the hands to practice the unparalleled hand seal. When practiced to the peak, one could tear the sea with bare hands. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This combat skill was a bit exaggerated. Unparalleled hand seal, tear the sea with bare hands. Wasn't this a little too arrogant? If he deduced it, wouldn't it be able to tear the sky and the earth? Wait, Han Fei frowned. The saber manipulation art on the door was also a heaven-level combat skill, but it was far inferior to the description of tearing the sea with bare hands. If its tearing the sea with bare hands was really so powerful, why was it only a heaven-level, mid-quality one? Han Fei asked, "Have you encountered any heaven-level combat skills?" Xia Shaochan replied, "Yes, but it's a movement technique. I don't need it." "What? Is there a heaven-level one here?" "I've only encountered a demon-level high-quality one." Lu Renquang nodded. "Me too." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Have you?" Han Fei nodded slightly. "Yes. It's not very suitable. Let me look again." Han Fei thought, "Don't panic. Let me look again. What if I can find a combat skill more powerful than this sea-suppressing hand?" After a while, Han Fei almost reached the end. He felt that there were tens of thousands of silk threads on his body, and the strongest of them was the sea-suppressing hand. Wait! Han Fei suddenly discovered that in addition to the strongest, there seemed to be another one with the weakest summoning power, which didn't even have the power of a spirit-level combat skill. It gave Han Fei the feeling that it was a mortal level, or at most a mystic level. Chapter 271. Han Fei frowned. The summoning power of this steel is too weak. Can this kind of combat skill enter this forest of steels? Han Fei's answer was no. Most of them had already been eliminated by the chain test after they had passed the door test and the trial before the door. No matter what, those who were left behind were all genius-level figures. Then, it was impossible for a mortal level or mysterious level combat skill to appear here. With this in mind, Han Fei walked back. Xia Shaochan wondered, "Where are you going?" "I'll go back and have a look." Li Hani and the others also saw Han Fei's movements and returned to the front from the back. When Han Fei stood in front of a steel, everyone was stunned. The weakest summoning power. Not only Han Fei, but almost everyone was summoned by this steel. Unfortunately, they didn't care about it at all because the summoning power of this steel was too weak. It couldn't be a good thing. Xiang Zuozhua asked, "Huh? Is there a problem?" "I don't know, it's possible." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Han Fei, why did you go to that steel?" Han Fei responded, "To have a look." When Han Fei saw the words on the steel, his blood froze. Fish Avatar Technique, incomplete, mortal level, low quality. This technique has not been deduced, but it can be realized in theory. I hope that after the fated person obtains this cultivation technique, he will be able to deduce it, and perhaps he will be able to successfully transform into a fish. At that time, Han Fei was dumbfounded. Turn into a fish. His first thought was how he felt when he possessed Little Black's body in the Soul Ocean. That kind of visual feeling and that kind of body control were completely different from human beings. That was a completely different race. Wow! Han Fei gasped. Who the hell created this combat skill? Is this going to change the characteristics of the human race? But then Han Fei became excited. This was just a mortal level, low-quality combat skill. The consumption of deduction should be extremely low. What if he managed to deduce this battle skill? If he could turn into a fish at any time, what would the scene be like? In this vast sea, who could really find him? This was a godly skill for escaping or treasure hunting. At that time, Han Fei's heart thumped, and he directly pulled the summoning power. Gotcha! Under everyone's astonished gaze, the steel broke, and Han Fei actually obtained this combat skill. Lu Renquang exclaimed, Fei Fei, are you crazy? What grade is it? Han Fei smiled. Mortal level. Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. Fuck. Han Fei, what are you thinking? So what if it's a mortal level battle skill? Luo Xiaobai was more mature. Since Han Fei made this choice, he must have his reasons. She asked casually, Han Fei, is there anything special about that steel? I'm not sure. Xia Shaochan asked curiously, what technique is it? You didn't even choose a heaven tier battle skill, so why did you choose a common tier battle skill? Han Fei said calmly, let's talk about it when we get out. In his mind, information about the fish avatar technique appeared. Han Fei was pleasantly surprised when he thought about it. Complicated. The description and cultivation of this combat skill were very complicated. Perhaps it was because the creator's strength was limited, or perhaps there was a problem with the way it was expressed, but he even mentioned the differences between fish and humans in the battle technique. Could this have been written by some old pedant? When Han Fei browsed through the entire combat skill, he realized that this should not be a combat skill, but a fucking paper, with countless conjectures, trying to uncover the mysteries of fish and human bodies. After choosing the combat skill, Han Fei said leisurely, a high-level technique doesn't mean it's good. The key is to be practical. At the same time, Han Fei didn't send a voice transmission but said aloud, look for a heaven-tier battle skill. The stronger the summoning power, the better. I'm an exception. You guys take the good ones. Everyone, and after Han Fei made his choice, everyone stopped. It was weird. Why did Han Fei choose the weakest combat skill? There couldn't be no reason. This time, even the mysterious masked man turned his head in surprise and stared at Han Fei. Looking at his triumphant look, he couldn't help but doubt the combat skill in front of him. Lin Shengmu suddenly said, don't believe him. He may have his reasons, but the higher the combat skills here, the better. Then, as if to show his determination, a steel in front of him broke. Seeing that what he said was useless, Han Fei didn't say any more, nor was he in a hurry to go to the opposite palace. Instead, he wandered leisurely in the forest of steels and walked to the steel of the sea suppressing hand, trying to get this combat skill. Unfortunately, the summoning from the steel was gone. No matter how hard he looked or hit it with a stick, there was no response at all. It's a pity. If only I could get a few more combat skills. Soon, the steels broke one after another, and everyone began to walk to the palace in the back one after another. Han Fei asked via voice transmission, what did you get? Luo Xiaobai said, demon level, high quality, a combat skill similar to the death substitution technique. Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Ha, a heaven level, low quality combat skill, overturning sea staff technique, a bit similar to my 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. With it, I'm sure I can create the 9-layered waves in Furious Sea. Han Fei was a little surprised. Zhang Xuanyu used the word, create. Could it be that he took this combat skill just to deduce his own combat skill? In the so-called 7-layered waves in Furious Sea, each wave was stronger than the previous one. The 7-layered waves were fierce enough. If there were 9-layered waves, wouldn't Zhang Xuanyu's strength be doubled? Lu Renquang still chose a knife combat skill, called the knife burial technique. Although it was only a demon-level, high-quality combat skill, it made up for his own speed because of its fast speed. Therefore, He chose it without hesitation. Xia Shaochan said casually, I chose a heaven-level, mid-quality movement technique, roaming technique. It's not bad. But you, just now, although Han Fei seemed to be wandering around, he was actually digesting and absorbing the knowledge of the fish avatar technique. Although he hadn't deduced it yet, this technique was like a paper, opening Han Fei's new understanding. Han Fei looked around. Don't be surprised when I tell you, everyone was puzzled and walked unhurriedly to the palace while listening. They were very curious. What mysterious combat skill did Han Fei get? Han Fei said leisurely, this combat skill is still incomplete, but it's not impossible. Lu Rinquang was speechless. Mortal level, and incomplete? Han Fei scolded, don't be so surprised. In fact, this is not a combat skill. It's called the fish avatar technique. Yes, it's a technique that can turn a human into a fish. What? This time, it was not Lu Rinquang's turn to be surprised. Xia Shaochan blurted out and even forgot to send a voice transmission. Han Fei was startled. Seeing that many people looked back, he immediately sang, what is love? Love is not electrifying when you get close to someone, chasing after them when you like them, and flying away when you're tired of them. Let this eternal legend repeat because of you. Let me love you very deeply, very far, very classically. Everyone. Han Fei was singing to himself, and the others looked at Han Fei as if he were a fool. What the hell is he singing? However, Xia Shaochan and the others immediately realized what was going on. Their hearts were already in turmoil. A human turning into a fish? That's like a book from heaven. If a human could be turned into a fish, everyone couldn't help but shiver. Just imagine, if a human could be turned into a fish and this fish had its own strength, what would that be like? Then it could almost stay in the sea and never go ashore. The treasures in the sea could be explored to their heart's content. Xia Shaochan quickly pretended that nothing had happened. Really? Not really. Can it be successful? Han Fei responded, not for the time being. It's just an incomplete technique, but once it is successful, in terms of practicality, even 10 heaven-level combat skills may not be comparable to it. Everyone acquiesced. Combat skills were just combat skills. The biggest difference between 1 heaven-level combat skill and 10 heaven-level combat skills was that the former had more means. If one could practice 1 heaven-level combat skill to perfection, one wouldn't be afraid of multiple heaven-level combat skills. But this fish avatar technique was really terrifying. If he succeeded, he would become a one-of-a-kind existence. It was not comparable to a heaven-level combat skill at all. Luo Xiaobai asked, can it really be successful? Han Fei replied, I don't know yet. When I go back this time, I have to think about it carefully. Before they walked to the palace, they heard a heart-wrenching scream suddenly coming from the palace. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Chapter 272. Everyone quickly came to the front of the palace. Li Hani and the others didn't want to fight with Han Fei at this time but frowned. Lin Xingmu said, there must be something inside. Someone should be dead. The masked man and Kong Yunfei disappeared. Han Fei and the others were taken aback and quickly looked around. Sure enough, these 2 people had disappeared at some point. When they were wandering around just now, they saw these 2 people. But as soon as they turned around, they were gone. Could it be that they went in? Could it be that they killed the people? After going through the chain, the original group of 12 people became 7 people. Now, there were probably only 5 people left. The number of people was decreasing sharply, and their strength was getting weaker and weaker. Now, they couldn't compete with Han Fei or Li Hani at all. However, Lin Xingmu and Li Hani's team said calmly, now is not the time for us to exhaust ourselves. We don't know what we will encounter later. Han Fei felt that these words were strange. It seemed that Lin Shengmu was implying that they didn't know what dangers there were later. It was always right to let these cannon fodder explore the way, Luo Xiaobai also said, let's fight after we go out. Li Hani nodded. Okay, let's not fight here. If there's a need, we can cooperate. Han Fei smiled and said, okay. Let's go in together. Forget it, let them go in first. Han Fei was more straightforward. If you want to be cannon fodder, you should be prepared to be cannon fodder. In this regard, Li Hani and the others also nodded. This was a matter of course. In this place, who would talk about friendship with you? At the beginning of the fishing trial before awakening, killing each other was allowed. In the face of real interests, friendship was useless. The 5 people's faces turned green and they all looked at Han Fei angrily. Han Fei shrugged. It's useless to look at me. If you don't show your value, we would have killed you by now. Even if we don't kill you and rob you of your fiery mountain tokens, can you get out? Among the 5 people, someone took a breath. Okay. Let's go in. After the 5 people went in, Han Fei said with a smile, hey. Kong Yunfei is ranked 6th, so only the 1st and the 5th haven't appeared in the top 8. Don't you know these 2 people? Where are the 9th and 10th? Have you met them before? 4 of the top 10 students of the 3 academies were not here. Something was wrong. To be able to cultivate to this level, how could there be weaklings? Xiang Zuozua said disdainfully, the 10th place Zhang Yu was smashed to death by me. Lin Shenmu smiled and said, I've seen Chao Yuan in EI before. However, he belonged to the 3rd academy. Without a suitable team, he couldn't defeat the silver fish. So, it's normal that he's not here. So there was only the 1st and the 5th place left. Han Fei suspected that the masked man was the top student of the 3 academies. Li Hani said, the 5th place, Qin Wuyin, is very powerful. He is a powerful hunter, not from the 1st academy. We haven't met. If I'm not mistaken, he should be among those people just now. No one was in a hurry to enter. Now that the hostility had been temporarily eliminated, Han Fei began to chat casually. They knew too little about the 3 academies, and these people were the most outstanding people in the 3 academies, so they knew a lot about them. Have you been to level 3? The level 3 fishery? San, how big is the level 3 fishery? What creatures are in the sea? Do you know the unknown place? You all seem to have spiritual weapons. Where did you get them? Did you buy them? Han Fei fired a lot of questions at them like a machine gun. In the end, Xiang Zuozua couldn't bear it anymore. Hey, are we familiar with you? When we go out, we'll still be enemies. Han Fei smiled. Why are you so angry? I just asked you a few questions. Don't be so stingy. Lu Renquang echoed, that's right. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. Hey. Xiang Zuozua, do you like hot pot? I'll treat you to hot pot later, how about? Bim, Zhang Xuanyu staggered and felt that someone kicked him from behind. Xia Shaochan squinted at him and said, don't embarrass us. Xiang Zuozua's head was about to explode. Is none of these guys normal? Yes, only Luo Xiaobai is the most normal. It's good that she doesn't talk. She was annoyed by Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu. At this moment, a burst of spiritual energy suddenly burst out from the palace. Everyone looked at each other. Come in. In a flash, spiritual energy burst out from the palace. Unwilling to be outdone, they immediately rushed in. But as soon as Han Fei stepped into the palace, his eyes suddenly went dark. With just one step, he felt as if he had stepped into another dimension. Everyone around him had disappeared. Fuck. Here it comes again. Han Fei was speechless. Before, when they entered the fiery mountain, they were teleported away. Now, it was happening again. Just by entering a door, he would be sent to hell. Han Fei looked around the interior of the palace. The space was dark, and a big crocodile-like fish was lying in the middle of the room, with its mouth facing the door. Oh, no, there was no door here. The big mouth was facing him. Inside the room, the surroundings were still decorated with seaweed carvings, and 8 stone pillars led straight to the dome. But when Han Fei looked up, he didn't see a dome at all. At the top, there was a starry sky. What the fuck? How could there be a starry sky at the bottom of the sea? Han Fei immediately found that something was wrong. The flashing things above his head were definitely not stars. But the point was, where did these stone pillars lead? Han Fei turned around and slashed at the carved wooden board behind him. As a result, a ripple trembled, and his knife was bounced back. Ha! Weird. He stepped forward and approached the big crocodile. However, Han Fei immediately discovered that it was not a crocodile at all, but a stone sculpture with 6 feet, raised barbs on its back, and bright red scales. Such a big room, but there's only one fish. That's weird. Han Fei took out the water-stirring seal and knocked it on the stone fish with a clang. But as a result, a terrifying force burst out from the stone fish. Then, Han Fei saw a tail sweep over. Bam! Han Fei was whipped away by the tail and smashed heavily on the barrier. Fuck. Alive? Han Fei widened his eyes, only to see that the fish cracked all over, and then its body overflowed with red light, and its eyes were filled with flames. The flames spread from its eyes to its body. In the end, its whole body was burning with flames. No, there's no data. Is this thing still a stone? Han Fei held the water-stirring seal and smashed it again. The shadow, which was dozens of meters long, almost covered the big fish. However, as soon as the big seal was pressed down, even the water-stirring seal began to burn. What's going on? Han Fei quickly took back the water-stirring seal. But then, the flames on the water-stirring seal spread directly to his body. At that moment, Han Fei's scalp went numb, and his body began to burn. The temperature of 1,000 degrees was so high that he felt terrible. Han Fei hurriedly covered his body with a spiritual energy protective cover, but the big fish that was smashed away still rushed over. However, to Han Fei's surprise, the big fish's body was reduced by 1/3. When Han Fei wanted to attack again, the big fish turned into a ball of fire and pounced on Han Fei. Han Fei was dumbfounded. If this was really a fish, even if its level was very high, he could still fight it. But what the fuck was going on? A stone fish turned into a ball of fire and entangled him. Just now, his body seemed to be only about 1,000 degrees. At this moment, Han Fei felt that he was placed in volcanic magma. This temperature was probably higher than the temperature of magma. His spiritual energy protective cover didn't last more than 3 seconds before it was burned out. Han Fei hurriedly used the water control technique, trying to grab water from the void. But what made him speechless was that in such a large space, he could only grab less than a basin of water. The point was that as soon as the water was condensed, it was immediately burned out. Han Fei wanted to condense water again, but the surface temperature was too high, so he had to cover his body with a spiritual energy protective cover again. Huh. Chapter 273. Han Fei resisted for about 5 minutes, but the power of the flames didn't weaken. Therefore, Han Fei didn't need to resist anymore. After the spiritual energy protective cover was burned, Han Fei simply sat cross-legged and began to practice the indestructible body art. Since being struck by lightning last time, Han Fei's indestructible body art hadn't made any progress at all. He didn't practice it, nor did he want to, because the indestructible body art consumed too much spiritual energy. When he was still a fishing master, he could cultivate his skin with tens of thousands of points of spiritual energy. However, since being struck by lightning last time, Han Fei's physique had been improved to a higher level, and his skin, flesh, internal organs, and bone marrow had been evenly tempered. Having paid such a big price, Han Fei certainly couldn't let the flames burn away his skin and flesh. If they were really burned away, he would be left with only a skeleton. How could he survive then? He began to practice the indestructible body art. After only half an hour, Han Fei's clothes were all burned away, and so was his hair. A layer of his skin was peeled off, but no blood flowed out. Why did he bleed? His whole body had been burned into a piece of coke. Even if his flesh and blood were burned out, they had all been burnt to a crisp. At this time, the flames were getting smaller. Under the coke, new skin was growing. After thinking for a while, Han Fei knew why the flames were getting smaller. This fire was also a kind of energy, and the heat was the transmission of the energy of the flames. And he used this energy to temper his skin and flesh, so the flames would naturally become smaller. Of course, if he had to use spiritual energy to offset this energy, it would not be worthwhile, and he didn't know how much spiritual energy he would have to consume. 2 hours later, Han Fei changed his skin again. 1 day later, the flames were no longer burning. Han Fei didn't know how many times he had changed his skin, and the skin and flesh he shed became a layer of flame energy covering his body. 3 days later, when the last bit of flame was burned out, Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. This flame was too terrifying. It took him 3 days and 3 nights to forcibly refine such a ball of flame. Just how much energy was contained in it? Han Fei got up, only to hear shells falling to the ground with a cracking sound, which made Han Fei's eyelids twitch. These were not shells at all. These were obviously the dregs of his burnt skin. However, fortunately, Han Fei found that all the meat on his belly was gone. In that second, he took a deep breath. He had lost weight. This time, he had really lost weight. Although Han Fei did not know what level his skin had reached, this time, not only was his skin tempered, his flesh and blood seemed to have become stronger. It seemed like he had to find someone to test it out on. Ha ha ha, my looks have returned to their peak. Han Fei was overjoyed. He vaguely remembered that old Jiang told him that when he became a peak-level great fishing master, he would lose half of his weight. But now, he was only a little bit away from becoming a peak-level great fishing master, and he had recovered his original figure. If one had to describe it in one word, it would be well-proportioned. Han Fei found a set of clothes from Forge the Universe and put it on. He felt that there was something wrong with this. Han Fei scratched his head and was dumbfounded. Oh, where's my hair? Han Fei cried. If the skin grew back, wouldn't his hair grow back? This was a little too much. Immediately, Han Fei gathered spiritual energy above his head. However, Han Fei couldn't help crying to find that his hair couldn't grow back. Fuck. What the hell is this place? Give me back my hair. Which son of a bitch put this fish here? Get the fuck out of here. I promise I won't beat you to death. Han Fei was furious. I used to be fat, but I still have hair. Now, I'm not fat anymore. I'm thin, but my hair is gone and I've become bald. Han Fei was so angry that his liver hurt. He tried for a full hour in a row, but he always felt that his hair was hovering between not growing and about to grow, as if something was hindering the growth of his hair. Finally, Han Fei accepted the current appearance. He found a piece of dark red cloth from Forge the Universe, made a pirate headscarf, and wrapped it around his head. Han Fei muttered, "It will definitely grow back. I'll go back and ask the principal as soon as I can." The stone fish was gone, but the seal was still there. Han Fei looked up, shot out the fishing rod, and wrapped it around the pillar. Swish, 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 Han Fei hugged the pillar and jumped 3 times before he stood on the top of the pillar. However, to his surprise, this pillar didn't reach the top at all. Now, it was about 50 or 60 meters high from the ground, and the other pillars were much higher than the one he climbed. Looking up, some of those flashing light spots were still far away. However, he could already vaguely see some of them. They were glowing balls. Among them, some glowing balls seemed to float towards Han Fei consciously and fell 100 meters away. This distance was exactly the range that the fishing hook could reach. Ha! Do you want me to fish for the balls? Han Fei thought for a while and didn't make a move. He climbed the first pillar, which was also the shortest one. Immediately, he waved his fishing rod and wrapped it around another pillar. With a swish, Han Fei jumped over and climbed onto the second pillar. However, this time, he felt a pressure pressing on him. This feeling was similar to the pressure he felt when he was walking on the chains. Hey! Do you want to press me with such little gravity? Han Fei cast the hook twice and reached the top of this pillar again. This second pillar was about 50 meters higher than the first one. This time, he saw it clearly. Those little stars that were originally more than 100 meters away from him became slightly larger balls. There was something in each ball. No, I have to climb another one. This time, Han Fei felt that the gravity on his body was a little stronger. When he climbed to the top, he finally saw the light ball 10 meters away. In the light ball closest to him, there was a spear, silver all over. Wrapped in the light ball, it looked dazzling. Han Fei took out the snow-silver rod and compared it with the spear in the light ball. It seemed to be a little similar. Ha! This treasure place is very magical. There are opportunities outside the door, but it is more like a kind of test. After coming in, the second iron chain test should be the second test. After passing the iron chain, you will be given an opportunity. After entering the inner hall, it will be the third test. After passing the iron chain, you will be given an opportunity. That is to say, there are actually 3 tests and 3 opportunities. Han Fei frowned slightly. He thought of the stone fish. Could an ordinary person withstand that thing? If Luo Xiaobai encountered it, Han Fei was sure that she would definitely not be able to resist it. How could she resist it? However, on second thought, if he hadn't touched the stone fish, would it have come back to life? He was a little anxious. He didn't know if Luo Xiaobai and Xia Shaochan had also encountered the same stone fish. Han Fei looked at the spear and didn't intend to take it. This spear didn't seem to be better than the snow-silver rod in his hand. He was burned alive by a ball of fire for 3 days and 3 nights. If it was only for a snow-silver rod, it was not worth it. Han Fei continued to climb. The 4th one. The 5th one. The 6th one. When Han Fei climbed the 6th one, he seemed to be carrying thousands of kilograms of gravity. 9-tailed mantis shrimp, attach. This time, Han Fei didn't use the fishing rod. On the 6th one, it was already very difficult to use the fishing rod. On the 7th one, Han Fei was sure that the fishing rod couldn't hold him anymore. When the 9-star chain clasped the 7th pillar, Han Fei felt his body suddenly become heavy and he even slid 5 or 6 meters. Want to press me down? No way. On the 7th pillar, Han Fei glanced at the glowing orbs. He ignored them. There was still one more pillar. Little gold, attach. Han Fei spread his wings and the 9-star chain clasped the 8th pillar tightly. He just wanted to fly over, but he was pressed down by a sudden pressure and almost fell down. Thanks to the 9-star chain, Han Fei hung upside down on the pillar, panting. Ha, the highest is naturally the best. Han Fei bent up with difficulty and then moved up step by step. He also wanted to flap his wings and fly up, but the heavy pressure directly made his wings stop working. Han Fei was sweating profusely. If I can't use my wings, I still have claws and chains. I can move up. Chapter 274. It took Han Fei a whole day and a night to finally climb to the 8th pillar. Fortunately, there was no 9th pillar, or he wouldn't have been able to climb it. He didn't think anyone could climb better than him. Without his physique, there was no way he could climb to the 8th pillar. I'm just short of using a crane to lift me up. Who else would have the ability to do that? Han Fei lay on the top of the 8th pillar, panting. Fortunately, when he reached the top of the pillar, the pressure was reduced. As soon as Han Fei raised his head, he saw a dazzling ball of light, which was almost stuck to his face. Han Fei thought to himself, is this the treatment of the 8th pillar? It's really different from the previous 7 pillars. For the previous 7 pillars, he had to use a fishing rod. Look, there was a ball of light on the 8th pillar. Han Fei grabbed it as if he were holding a water ball, but this water ball refracted light differently from a water ball. He saw his hands slowly reaching in, as if they were hundreds of kilometers long. He grabbed and grabbed. Finally, he grabbed a piece of ice-cold metal. Han Fei was excited. It must be something good. Will it be an ultra-quality spiritual weapon? A fairy weapon? A divine weapon? The ball of light turned into specks of light and dissipated like water until there was no trace of it. Han Fei was dumbfounded. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the palm-sized token in his hand. The front of the token was engraved with the word "sea," and the back was a wave-shaped engraving. The front of the token was engraved with the word "sea," and the back was a wave-shaped engraving. It's gone. Where's my ultra-quality spiritual weapon? Where's my divine weapon? Are you fucking kidding me? Han Fei was completely dumbfounded. He had worked so hard to climb for a whole day and night. I painstakingly moved up inch by inch, and all you give me is a token. How the hell do I know where this token is used? Han Fei bit the token twice and slashed it with the blue sea wandering dragon daggers, only to find that there was not even a mark. So, he stuffed it in to forge the universe. He knew that this token must be a good thing. Otherwise, there was no need to hide it on the 8th pillar. But the problem was that he had no idea where it could be used. In terms of short-term value, it was probably not even worth a mid-quality pearl. Of course, Han Fei was not a short-sighted person. He pondered that this token might be of great use in the future. Thinking of this, Han Fei took out his fishing rod and began to cast the hook. Although the token was useless, there were many other light orbs here. Each ball represented a weapon. However, when Han Fei threw out the fishing hook, the light balls swooshed away from the fishing hook and slipped hundreds of meters away. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Seriously? What's going on? You're not letting me fish. Thinking of the steel outside the door, Han Fei was lost for words. Could it be that each person could only pick one of these light balls? This won't do. Let's try the 7th pillar. Han Fei leaped up, boom. An unparalleled pressure instantly pressed down on his body. Before the 9-star chain was released, Han Fei fell straight down. His speed was as fast as an arrow leaving the bow or a bullet leaving the chamber. Damn it. 9 tails, the 9-star chain hurriedly shot out, but in the next second, there was only the sound of the chain rubbing against the stone pillar, and in the splashing of light, Han Fei still failed to resist. Bang, puff, Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood, feeling that his bones were about to break. It was not because he fell from the sky, but because he was pressed down by some kind of force. Han Fei fell to the ground, feeling sharp pain in his internal organs, and his whole body was about to fall apart. Huh. Suddenly, Han Fei realized something. There was water around. Where did the water come from? When Han Fei got up, there was no palace at all. There was seawater all around. And he was lying in a stone pit halfway up the mountain. Huh. I'm out. Before he had time to react, Han Fei felt that something was wrong behind him. Clang. Han Fei was sent flying, feeling that his body was slightly pierced. A spiritual weapon. Han Fei immediately twisted his body, stepped on a stone, and ejected out. At the same time, a ray of light sprinkled on him. On his side, the cold light came again. However, this time, Han Fei grabbed the spear with one hand, and the blue sea wandering dragon daggers swarmed out and pierced through it in an instant. How could it be? clanking sounds kept coming out, and Han Fei finally saw the appearance of the person. But to his surprise, Han Fei had never seen this person before. He was not among the group of people who entered the palace with him. Bam! Spiritual energy burst out from the spear and he struggled to break free from Han Fei's hands. At the same time, he was shocked. How strong is this guy's physique? He took a solid blow from me and is still safe and sound? Han Fei immediately smiled. With a wave of his hand, all the blue sea wandering dragon daggers returned to his body. Han Fei said to him via voice transmission, "I'll give you a chance. Come on, fight with me for 2 rounds and give me your fiery mountain token by the way. Then I'll let you go." The man raised his eyebrows. Are you Han Fei? The man was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. Just now, Han Fei suddenly appeared and didn't face him. Besides, this guy seemed to be bald. It couldn't be Han Fei. However, as soon as they fought, something went wrong. The man took a few steps back and said, "How about we separate now?" Han Fei smiled. "You want to run away after beating me up? How can there be such a good thing in the world? As I said, fight with me for 2 rounds. Don't worry, I won't use my daggers, spiritual beasts, or contractual spiritual beasts." Han Fei grabbed the snow silver rod and pointed at the man. From the attack just now, Han Fei had roughly judged that this person's strength was definitely not weak, not inferior to Kong Yunfei's. How could a man who could pierce his own flesh be an ordinary person? The man's face changed. He was not afraid of Han Fei, but the blow just now made him realize that Han Fei was really strong. It didn't seem worthwhile for him to waste his time here. However, at this moment, Han Fei was aggressive. Should I escape? Not to mention that I can't escape. If they really fought, I wouldn't be afraid of him. Han Fei, remember, I am Qin Wuyin from the Second Academy. I would rather die standing than live on my knees. Since you want to fight, then come on. Show me your full strength. Han Fei blinked. Who are you? Qin Wuyin. No, aren't you in the secret realm? Qin Wuyin shook his head. I'm a step late, so I'm guarding here. Han Fei suddenly scolded, "Bullshit, Qin Wuyin is a hunter. Who are you pretending to be with that spear?" Qin Wuyin's body suddenly disappeared, and his voice sounded in Han Fei's mind. Who told you that I am just a hunter? Rip. The seawater was cut open, and a silver spear was pressed straight against Han Fei's ribs. In the seawater, a long spear was bent like a bow, and Han Fei's chest was torn open by a 3-inch long wound. The long spear pierced into his flesh and pressed against Han Fei's bones. Bam! As Han Fei released his spiritual energy, Qin Wuyin's body appeared dozens of meters away, the spear in his hand straightened. He looked at Han Fei in shock. How can your physique be so strong? Han Fei cast the divine healing technique and the wound was healing quickly. Han Fei twisted his head. I just got some opportunities. Well, you are very strong. This spear should be a low-quality spiritual weapon. Is there any spirit sealed in it? Han Fei shook his head slightly. It still didn't work. He felt that it was still not enough. He thought that he had at least mastered the skin-toughening realm of the indestructible body this time. But it turned out that he was still far from it. Han Fei frowned slightly. If Xiang Zuozhua held the spear, even if it couldn't pierce through him, it would still be 3 inches deep, and he would really be in danger. Han Fei raised his head abruptly. Again. Since he learned the knife, Han Fei's rod technique was actually a little lacking and he didn't use it as well as Zhang Xuanyu. Of course, it wasn't too bad. It was just that it wasn't enough to compare to the best, but it was more than enough to compare to the worst. However, whether intentionally or unintentionally, Qin Wuyin seemed to rely on his extremely fast speed and the spear frequently fell on Han Fei's body. Clank, 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 Qin Wuyin really wanted to give up. I want to fight with people, but I don't want to fight with a magic weapon or a spiritual weapon. Han Fei was speechless. He couldn't even poke the spear. Han Fei saw that Qin Wuyin's attack frequency had decreased. The snow-silver rod twisted, dodged Qin Wuyin's attack, and blasted him back. Without giving Qin Wuyin time to rest, Han Fei's spiral strike had arrived. His blow was blocked and Han Fei swung his rod in the air again, a bit like Zhang Xuanyu's 7-layered waves in Furious Sea. Puff, Qin Wuyin vomited a mouthful of blood. Han Fei landed easily on the stone and sprinkled a ray of light on himself. After thinking about it, he sprinkled another on Qin Wuyin. Okay, I know why you are ranked 5th in the 3 academies. Your hunter profession and soul master profession can only be said to be mediocre, not even in the top 10. You are much worse than Xiang Zuozua. Give me your fiery mountain token and you can go. Chapter 275. Qin Wuyin was very aggrieved. I just want to find someone. 35XS however, I only found the first one and there's already such a big devil. I rank 5th in the 3 academies. So what if I rank outside the top 10 in a single profession? But I'm still 5th. Qin Wuyin helplessly took out 16 fiery mountain tokens and threw them all to Han Fei. Han Fei wouldn't believe it if it was too little, and he didn't have any more. He just sighed. Is the 4th academy really so strong? Han Fei was very satisfied. Watching Qin Wuyin slip away, he didn't intend to chase him at all. Plus the fiery mountain tokens in the hands of Xia Shaochan and the others, he had 111. Qin Wuyin left, so Han Fei began to wait. From Qin Wuyin's words, he could guess that he might be the first to come out. At the same time, he was also a little worried. Could Luo Xiaobai and the others survive the flames of the stone fish? Also, since Qin Wuyin, who ranked 5th, was outside, was there really no hidden master in the temporary combination of the 3 academies inside, or was there someone else? Han Fei sat cross-legged at the entrance of the cave and waited for a full day. He didn't do anything else but repeatedly tested his body. He found that spiritual level weapons could hurt him. But if Qin Wuyin used magic weapons, he might not be able to break his body with his strength. Besides, Han Fei found that the energy in his dantian didn't really disappear, but transformed. The energy, which was originally a mass of energy, was now scattered in his muscles and bones. What did this mean? This seemed to show that he needed at least 1 or 2 more breakthroughs to completely refine this energy. This was also the reason why he felt that the indestructible body art didn't meet his expectations. One day later, 35XS Han Fei was studying the fish avatar technique. He didn't rush to deduce it. Even the mortal level fish avatar technique had a lot of things to think about. Suddenly, Han Fei looked up and saw a big black hole suddenly appearing in the sky, and a group of people were falling from the sky in various postures. Han Fei took a long breath. I'm glad I'm not dead. Ha! No, where's Luo Xiaobai? The people who came out hurriedly adjusted their body orientation. Only Lu Renquang, like him, lay directly on the ground. Li Hani and the other 4 quickly gathered together. Among the people from the alliance of the 3 academies, another one was gone. There were only 4 people left. After Kong Yunfei landed, he immediately ran. If he stayed here alone, wouldn't he just be waiting to be robbed? Xia Shaochan flashed and came to Han Fei. Huh? Why did you come out early? Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang, who quickly got up, also ran over. Lu Renquang yelled, but I was almost killed. Several times, I thought I was going to die. That flame is too terrifying. Zhang Xuanyu sighed. Isn't that so? I was thinking that I wouldn't be able to see you guys again. Han Fei's heart tightened. Did everybody encounter that fire? But if that was the case, how could Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang resist it? No, wait, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly looked at Han Fei. Fei Fei, you've lost weight. Lu Renkuang was shocked. Shoot. How did you lose so much weight? Am I the only fatty left now? And Xia Xiaochan secretly reached her hand behind Han Fei's head. Han Fei's body flashed and his face changed drastically. Xia Xiaochan, what are you doing? Xia Xiaochan blinked her eyes. Han Fei, are you bald? Lu Renkuang and Zhang Xuanyu noticed that Han Fei's head was wrapped with a strange headscarf. 35XS Lu Renkuang pointed at Han Fei and widened his eyes. Fei Fei, was your hair burned out? Puff. Puff, Xia Xiaochan seemed to be unable to hold back her laughter and spat out a string of bubbles underwater. Han Fei's face was black. Nonsense. You, what do you know? A man's handsomeness can be best reflected when he has no hair. Zhang Xuanyu squinted at Han Fei. I have hair, and I am also very handsome. You, Han Fei rolled up his sleeves. Zhang Xuanyu, I'll give you another chance to reorganize your words. If it weren't for the fact that they were in the water, they might have laughed out loud now. Han Fei immediately changed the topic. Where is Xiaobai? Why didn't she come out with you? Everyone immediately came back to themselves and their faces even changed slightly. Xia Xiaochan said, the cave entrance hasn't disappeared yet. It should be fine. In terms of life-saving means, Xiaobai is the strongest among us. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Could it be that fire? I felt it was very domineering. It took me 3 days and 3 nights to refine it. As soon as Han Fei said this, the three of them looked at him in shock. Han Fei blinked his eyes, feeling that something was wrong. Did he say something wrong? Han Fei asked, why are you all looking at me? Zhang Xuanyu was surprised. Did you block the fire? Han Fei was thinking quickly about the meaning of this sentence. After a while, he asked, you didn't block it? Lu Renkuang was shocked. Of course. How could that thing block it? I thought I would be burned to death. However, when the fire burned into my body, it began to turn into an unknown force. Didn't you notice that we have all advanced? Han Fei's body immediately stiffened. He looked at Lu Renkuang and the others, and finally at Zhang Xuanyu, only to find that this guy had also advanced. Not only did he advance, but he also seemed to be an advanced peak-level great fishing master. Gulp, Han Fei was dumbfounded. So it took me 3 days and 3 nights to block an opportunity? Fuck, at that time, Han Fei felt as if there were 10,000 iron-headed fish galloping in his heart. He really wanted to slap himself. What the hell? You don't look like an opportunity at all. I thought I had to desperately block it. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei strangely. How strong is your physique? How could you block that kind of fire? Han Fei thought, how can I explain it? But at this moment, a man and a woman appeared in the air. Xiaobai. In an instant, Han Fei and the others' faces changed drastically. The masked man carried Luo Xiaobai out of the cave. And Luo Xiaobai was tied with a circle of glowing ropes. The 4 of them were immediately furious. Xia Xiaochan's face became extremely ugly. Asshole, let go of Xiaobai. Han Fei was furious. You're courting death. Lu Renkuang pressed the armor box on the ground, shaking the underground rocks and causing cracks to appear. Zhang Xuanyu clenched the rod and pointed at the masked man. No matter who you are, you'd better let her go. On the other side, Li Hani and the others were very surprised. Why did Han Fei and the others become enemies with this masked man? Lin Xingmu secretly said, Honey, an opportunity. Take this opportunity to cooperate with the masked man and ask for Han Fei's fiery mountain tokens. Li Hani's face changed slightly. Don't act rashly. Let's wait and see. However, the masked man said via voice transmission, which one of you went up to the 8th pillar? Hand over the thing and we can exchange it for her life. Han Fei's face suddenly became ugly, but he didn't notice that Xia Xiaochan beside him also trembled slightly. Han Fei took a step forward. Why should I believe you? The masked man nodded. Well, it seems to be you. You. Snatching the fiery mountain tokens, grabbing opportunities, and picking up rare treasures are none of my business. But you went up to the 8th floor. My purpose is only that thing. She can live if we exchange it. You can only trust me. Han Fei looked at the feeble Luo Xiaobai, who was raising her head with difficulty and blinking at Han Fei. Han Fei said via voice transmission, "What did he do to you?" The masked man said lazily, "Don't waste your energy. The rope in my hand is called the spirit restricting rope. She has no spiritual energy now and her power has been sealed, so she can't hear your voice transmission at all." The faces of Han Fei and the others changed slightly, and Lu Rinquan clenched his armor box as if he was about to attack at any time. Xia Xiaochan also secretly exerted force on her feet and seemed to be preparing to use her flash ability. The masked man said, "Xia Xiaochan, I know you. Your flash ability is indeed extraordinary, but I promise that I will be faster than you. She will die before you arrive. Do you want to try?" Han Fei said via voice transmission, "Don't do it. I have a way. Zhang Xuanyu, prepare a soul attack. Xia Xiaochan, prepare to attack." Under Han Fei's pirate headscarf, his forehead flashed slightly and little white and little black appeared. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.